Hello everyone. Sorry I haven't done a video for a while. Last live I did with Philomena, who was Blue Moon Sigma on TikTok, and unfortunately we had some issues because she had been banned and didn't have 1,000 followers to do a live chat with me. But anyway, I thought I'd do one today. I've got a couple of hours spare. So, and I don't know what's happening with the screen in the background, so forgive me for that. So I am the guy, for those of you who may not know who I am, I've just started this live today. I am the guy that does all those videos called Our True History. Parts 1 to 1,000 odd at the moment. And they cover everything from spirits, portals, Bigfoots, skinwalkers, ancient aliens, etc. And I call myself an expert. I'm quite good on the ancient aliens side of things. In fact, I even pick up things where the ancient aliens program gets it wrong. So yeah, so I've done many videos on the ancient aliens, and I find it one of my favourite topics. Simply because I have spent so long researching it. I've got a couple of people. I don't know what's happening with the background now. Sorry, guys. I think it's some sort of effect it's supposed to do. D has wrote, "Hello, lovely." Oh, bless you. Thank you. I'm just going to try and stop that thing from. I don't know how to do that. Going off in the background, but thank you, Deek. Let's kind of put something behind the camera. Thank you. That was very nice of you to say that. And Paul has wrote, "You're an expert, no doubt." Oh, bless you. Bless you, Paul. Paul's just been sending me some messages. I was just reading them, Paul, which is what made me want to do this live. I just did a new video on my Patreon page. Yes, I know it's an advert, but Paul's just watched it and was sending me some comments. And the video is really important, actually, for those of you that may know of Zecharia Sitchin and know whether or not to believe him. So I've done one video so far. It's going to be many, and I'm going through his book, pretty much the Lost Book of Enki, going through everything to do with the facts. So, for example, someone like Dr. Michael Heiser, who said Sitchin's a liar, literally on one of his things, I've actually debunked him. I haven't called him a liar. He's passed now. I'm not that stupid to call him a liar, even though he was. But he's a liar because how can you call someone a liar on their own research? A liar is when you know the truth and you're misleading people. So unless he believed Zecharia Sitchin, in which case he wouldn't have known what was inside Zecharia Sitchin's head. So in other words, he was an numpty, Dr. Heiser, because you can't say what someone has in their head, because obviously if Sitchin was believing it, therefore he's not a liar, he's just telling what he believes. So anyway, so the videos I'm doing are going through the whole thing, right from whether or not the word Anunnaki is actually in ancient texts, because that means that if it is, who are the Anunnaki? Because our friend Dr. Michael Heiser, who's now passed in February, I think, this year, I did try and contact him back in 2011, 12. He didn't reply, but it was to do with the same thing about what he said. Anyway, his claim is that the word Anunnaki means princely seeds. The problem with that, if you watch my video on the Patreon page, is I show that the word Anunnaki is attributed to more than just the princes, e.g. Enlil, Enki, Ninharsag, or Nimnur. They've got different names over the long period that they lived, but the point is they were the three that came from Nibiru and were descendants of King Anu. So technically, if anyone's going to be princes, the princely seeds, as Dr. Michael Heiser would say, it would be those three. However, the word Anunnaki in many, and I point out many translations, nothing to do with Sitchin, translations from 1912, translations from 1921, and so on. I point out that the word Anunnaki is attributed not by Sitchin, not by me, but by other researchers to pertain to a huge group of, dare I say it, aliens. So that's the first video, just literally goes through the whole of that, 10 minutes long, and breaks down where everything comes in, why it fits in, etc. And I think I do it justice, and I think that no one can debunk me. That's my main goal in life, is never to be debunked. So the next video is going to be carried on with the flood, and showing that Zecharia Sitchin, in his book, The Lost Book of Enki, was correct, that they did go up in their spaceships and look down at people getting flooded. And I've read the text out, but I'm going to be doing it because there's just more than one text. Sorry if I'm waffling on. There's more than one text. So, for example, Epic Gilgamesh talks about it. So I'm going to be putting them all together. So it's the narrative, the same narrative as actually what Zecharia Sitchin done. But instead of just reading, a snippet out on one TikTok video, I'm going to be doing it as a whole order of what Zecharia Sitchin's done in his books. And therefore, at the end of it, or even beginning of it, you'll go, yep, aliens, there's no doubt about it. Sitchin was spot on, and that's what I'm going to try and do. Okay, so enough waffle. So that video's on my Patreon page if anyone wants to, and the next one will be out. I'd like to try and finish it tomorrow. Thank you, Regulator, for the rose. Deeks wrote, I love listening to you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Just made me go shy there. Susanna's wrote, I heard they are way more advanced than we are. So from my calculations of 40 years of research, I say that they're about, when they were here, they were about 300 years more advanced than we are now. That's my take on it. Now, obviously, they had tech, a lot more tech than we've got. But give us 300 years from where we are now, we will have the same tech that they had. They didn't have anti-gravity. Otherwise, they would have got here a lot quicker than they said they took. And they wouldn't have had big roaring machines. Even the Bible talks about a roaring machine. Believe it or not, it does. If you read it properly, with Moses, when he was it Moses? When he wasn't allowed to look at God when he came down in this roaring thunder, which obviously is a machine. And there's other people that's researched that better than I have in terms of what kind of machine it actually describes, that it's got wheels on it and stuff that will actually turn. There's a name for it, I don't know what the name is, but basically the wheels turn all the way round. So it's like like a ball that's on this craft spaceship. So they're about 300 compared to the alien greys, for example, which are could be anywhere from 1,000 years to millions of years ahead of us. I don't think anyone knows the answer to that really, but they're not as they weren't as advanced at the time as the little greys. Thank you, Regulator. Susanna's wrote. Sorry, I'm just. Simon wrote the Anunnakis. Yes, that's correct. Well done. Susanna's wrote. I heard they are more advanced than versions of us. Also, life on other planets is considered. Well, with the Anunnaki, obviously they created us. We've got the text. I've read the text out, and again in that video that I'll be doing, I'll be going through absolutely everything as if it's a story, but based off of the actual original text. So who would write that in the first ever language, talking about trying to create a primitive worker, which is what they actually called us? Who would write that in the very first language and talk about 6 or 7 other humans that they tried to create that failed, broken legs, no bladder, and all these kind of things? They wrote all that down as a first ever language. So they are brain wise they're 8 to 12 foot tall, so they're going to have a bigger brain than us. Now, whether or not that equates to being smarter, I mean, there's some people here on this planet that's quite tall, taller than me, and I wouldn't say they're very smart. But and then you get small people like little Warwick Davis, who is, quite intelligent. So, sorry, I'm waffling, but yeah, basically, Paul has wrote, "It's worth listening to." Thank you, Paul. That's to do with the video on my Patreon page I just put up today, probably 20 minutes ago, in fact, and Paul's already watched it, so that's great. Thank you. Winnie's wrote, "Hi, good sir, good to see you." Thank you, Winnie. Nice to see you too. Hope all is well. I saw one of your videos the other day, or today, in fact, with your daughter in it, and I was thinking you looked happy, and that was nice. Susanna's wrote, "Aliens, and we are here in the universe with them. Wouldn't we be considered aliens as well?" Yeah, I mean, technically you're right there. We have two fused chromosomes. We are there was a missing link between hominids and us. So technically, and they did use what they called the MEs on us and their essence. This is what is written in these. I mean, who writes that in the first ever language that only a handful of people could probably read and write? And they start talking about using essence and everything to create it. Anyway, so they created us. So are we aliens? Technically part aliens to this planet, yeah. Yeah, I mean, really, technically we are. Kitty's wrote, "Were there pictures of extraterrestrial vehicles in old religious paintings?" I believe there was, yeah. So you've probably seen them, which is why you're asking these questions. There's one where there's a single-seater UFO in the background of a particular painting, and if you actually look, you'll see there's some small people draw or painted on that's actually looking up at that particular craft. There's loads of pictures with UFOs in them. In fact, Joan of Arc supposedly even saw a UFO. Who else saw a UFO? There's loads of people. There was I'm trying to remember who it was. There was an armada going once years ago, and it was written in their logbooks that they saw this UFO come from the ocean. Obviously, they didn't call it a UFO, but it was basically lights and a big thing come up out of the ocean and scared this whole fleet off who was about to attack someone. I can't remember who it was now. Forgive me, but yeah. So there's a lot of stories of people seeing UFOs way back. Obviously, these are more recent compared to the Anunnaki times, because obviously back then you only had a handful of people that could read or write, and if you was lucky, you'd be able to draw, paint something on something that might last. Normally, it was painted on walls. I mean, I think the oldest picture we've got of any spacecrafts, and these were the Anunnaki crafts, I think are on the above the door in Abydos, the ones that you may remember as seeing with the helicopter and what looks like a tank and so on and so on. I think they are, because the descriptions of the crafts from what I've read and what Zachariah Sitchin had wrote, they match. I mean, they talk about a whirlwind, which is a helicopter one, and lo and behold, above Abydos, there's a helicopter. And of course, the mainstream will say, no, these are newer, they're carved over, and therefore nothing to see here. That's why, someone's graffitied it and all this kind of stuff. And they do that to put us off. But they match, basically, they match. Sorry. AJ has wrote, "Every time I scroll to one of your videos, I hear you talking, I always think it's Nick Pope." Oh, bless you. No, it's not Nick. I've spoke to Nick, but I didn't think I sounded like him. So for those of you that don't know, Nick Pope is, or was, the Mulder out of Mulder and Scully for the UK in the 80s. He was head of the UFO for about 5 years, I think it was. And so he got many UFO stories and evidence, etc., I guess one could say, on his desk. after he left there, he ended up still researching this kind of stuff and ended up being on programs like Ancient Aliens, etc., which is pretty cool. So he's well into it, which is good to see. Paul has wrote, Michael Heiser couldn't hold a candle to Zachariah Sitchin, point and case. I totally agree with you. I mean, obviously, I'm trying to be respectful on the video, but you knew what I was getting at when I was sort of saying, yeah, he was wrong. It's sad because that Dr. Michael Heiser, who passed in February, had actually physically created a website which was called sitchiniswrong.com. And on his website, he says the reason why he's done that website is because, if he was an accountant and you're being screwed over by someone, he'd tell you. If he was a builder and someone had, done a bad job beforehand, he'd tell you. But he goes on like that. But what he didn't say is, if someone's not religious, he'll try and change your views because he was an actual Christian author. And of course, someone talking about aliens, our true history, and he's trying to sell books on an almighty being that wasn't the Anunnaki, there's a conflict of interest. So for him to have knocked up a website called sitchiniswrong.com, that really winds me up. Especially when I tried to talk to him back in 2012 and he ignored me. Well, I actually did reply once, and then when I questioned it again, because he'd just come out with a load of crap, he just disappeared. But it winds me up, really, because he clearly didn't do his homework. Clearly. Sorry. Ali's wrote, are you Christian? There's no point in my opinion. If whatever you are is fine. But there's no point to me being religious in any shape or form, simply because the religious texts are man-made. They are. There's no denying that. Everything, the Quran, the Christians, the Catholics, everything comes from the original Sumerian, or you say Sumerian gods, but we know them as the Anunnaki. We've got the 7-day creation story, literally in Sumerian tablets, and then ended up the Genesis, and the list goes on, which I'm actually doing the videos now, which is what I'm saying, just to prove it. And then anyone that watches it will say, okay, there's no doubt whatsoever. Thank you, Ray Hippie, for that. So the point is, I know I've done all these videos already, 1,000-odd videos, but I'm doing it in the way that now no one will ever be able to say, no, it's not. None of the religions were there when the Anunnaki were there. They had no religion. They had people worshipping them, absolutely. But as for a religion, there was none. Now, you could argue, well, a religion is when a lot of people believe in something. But, a lot of people believe in, a television. Doesn't mean we should all worship a television. So I think that's a bit of a stupid, because I actually looked up what constitutes having a religion, because I was trying to figure out whether or not Enki would be, classed as a religion, and Enlil being classed as a religion. It said that it was to do with a certain number of people believing something, which I thought was a bit stupid, but... so no, there's no point in me being Christian or any religion, simply because it's man-made, and obviously we know that whatever religion is out there, it's all been manipulated by, and it has. You could say, well, we've got the very first, Quran or very first Bible or whatever. You haven't. Those texts are copied from older texts. So there's no point in religion, in my opinion. However, saying that, my mum, no matter how much I tell her about the Anunnaki and whatever else, she is happy to believe there's an almighty being because it gives her comfort. And, I will not take that away from her. If that makes her feel like, when the time comes, then that's a good thing. Bobby Phantoms wrote, Michael Hauser was an Anunnaki trying to debunk himself. Geekies wrote, Enki is not Anunnaki. Okay, Geeky, if you could let me know why, bearing in mind I've just done a video literally spelling it out on my Patreon page, so I don't think there's anyone be able to defy that. But if you could explain why Enki is not an Anunnaki, bearing in mind the word Anunnaki is actually in ancient tablets, ancient texts, ancient translations, I'd be very much interested to know whether Enlil then also is not an Anunnaki. In fact, who would be the Anunnaki if it's not them and their cohort? Hi, Rip. Thank you, Hippie, again. You don't have to. I do it for fun. Jane has joined. Hi, Jane. My resident timekeeper, Jane, that keeps giving me the time. Thank you very much, Jane. Nice of you to join. I know I keep going, but I do literally. I still research every single day. Even if I can't find the time, I listen to translations on the way to work and stuff. So I'm always learning stuff, which is why I keep coming back doing these lives, because I can't remember what I've learned, but hopefully when someone asks me a question, I'll bring up the new information. Not saying that I've used all my information up before. I've probably got so much in there, but it's only when people ask me that I can actually recall it. I can't just suddenly start remembering stuff now. But it looks like L Funny has wrote Nibiru and the Gold Genetic Monkey Neural Link. Sorry. Nibiru and the Gold Genetic Monkey Neural Link. I don't know what that's referring to. You've got me on that one. Sorry. Obviously, I know about the gold, but the monkey neural link, gold. I'm guessing you're. See, I don't think that we were monkeys. The description of them from the Anunnaki were primates, or hominids even. I wouldn't have said we was directly from a monkey, with the Anunnaki's help. Yuk Life Represents has wrote, I love listening to this guy. He's way beyond my comprehension level. I dig it. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Do you know what's funny? Sorry, I just you're saying that, and then I get someone today just on one of my pinned videos about the flat Earth. I know. Don't hate me. And he's wrote, you've debunked yourself by showing a picture of flat Earth. In other words, a map. This is the brain power of some people out there. I showed a picture of a map instead of a globe, and then spinning the globe to show one point to another. So I showed a two-dimensional image, and he's saying that because I showed a two-dimensional image of a flat Earth, I've debunked myself. I was like, what? And the funny thing is, on that video, the simple one where you all know it, where I say, you don't need math or anything, where I say, if Australia's near the edge, because that's supposedly where it would be, and America's in the middle, why when a balloon goes up or a rocket goes up is it always equal distance on the cameras? And I still get no one answering. I get people say comments like that. Someone's called me a what was it, flat tard or something the other day, or globe tard, on that same video, and of course I write back saying no problem at all. Just still no one's actually answered my question, because they can't, because we're obviously on a ball. Until someone answers that with a logical point, I still stand by it. Sorry, Dashers wrote, so what happens when we die? The light energy being that joins with us in our mother's womb while we're 3 to 4 months in the womb, which is what the Quran says as well. That's when we get our soul, which is a light energy being, whatever you want to call it, spirit, the orb. That joins with us, connects with our pineal gland, stays with us like a hard drive. Sometimes it can leave our body and then come back, which is why we get out-of-body experiences, etc. But eventually we die. The orb leaves our body, but we're in control of it. Because it was like a hard drive. We can control it and fly around and do whatever. But at some point or another, we have to cross over. It's not me saying it. It's clairvoyance, mediums, and spiritualists. Ask any decent one, and they'll say yes, that's correct. The spirits will cross over again, and once they cross over, the hard drive, your memory is just pushed to the back of that hard drive, or to the front, should I say? along with all the other people that it joined, and it will go back round again. It will go in someone else, and one day they'll have a recall and say, "Oh wow, my previous life I was listening to Our True History." No, you wasn't listening to Our True History. The person that hard drive connected to was listening to Our True History. So unfortunately, we do die. You may have a period where you can float around and do whatever, but eventually, unless you get stuck in some sort of time loop thing, which I've heard, where spirits, when I say spirits, people that's connected with the light energy being, just they don't know they're dead or whatever, or they get stuck in some sort of temporal loop that just repeats over and over. I've heard that, which is really sad, but other than that, yeah. Regulators wrote, "I've been on your Patreon. Oh, thank you. Hopefully there's enough decent content there for you to have a look at. There's, by the way, advert time. There's a lot of videos on that. Well, most of the videos, virtually all the videos on there that I've done are not on TikTok or on YouTube or anything. So it's different content. For example, everything you need to know about mermaids. I'd love to know Paul's thoughts on that video if he's watched that one, because I think I succinctly prove there was mermaids, where they come from, and I use my logic as opposed to watching TV programs and YouTubers and whatever else, which is why I'm the only person that's come up with where Atlantis is. And funny enough, I've seen a second video now of our friend, I'm not going to name his name, Billy, where he's now saying that the Anunnaki were the Atlanteans. Oh, man. I was the only person that ever worked that out. But anyway, thank you, Winnie. But, it's good that he's watching my videos and actually getting some proper research done. Moving on. I only get upset because, I know I take stuff from other people's research, but when there's only one person, the whole planet, that's ever come out with the connections that I come out with. Anyway, and he actually said the same thing. He used the same connections of the cities that the Anunnaki built being in concentric. So I was the only person that ever said that. Anyway, Evil Nose Hair has wrote, "Will they ever come back and fix their mistakes?" No, they won't. They've left it to us. And apparently, whistleblowers say that the Anunnaki is still in contact with our military and probably leaders, if you want to call it like that. I mean, look at Biden. That he accidentally let it slip once when he was talking, and he said the aliens on the moon, and then he goes, "Oh, I don't know if I'll ever meet one," or something like that. And I was like, "Yeah, there's no way they'd put you in front of an alien. Jesus, they'd want to depopulate the bloody planet straight away if that was the case." KXNJ has wrote, "I got a question. What did you find?" That's to do with I've researched the ancient aliens. Well, basically, based on all the evidence, and there is a hell of a lot of evidence, missing links, fused chromosomes, written first ever language telling us what they did, the gold mines in South Africa, the buildings that they built, the carvings, the statues, the list goes on. We are a hybrid species between hominid that was here, more than likely Neanderthal. I know I say Neanderthal because people will say, no, Neanderthal's not in South Africa, but the University of Princeton has now come out and saying that it looks like there was Neanderthal DNA in black people. And I'd been saying that for a very long time, and I did get a lot of people saying, you're wrong because there's no Neanderthal DNA in black people. However, now Princeton University's come out saying, well, actually, there might be, or there is. And I'm thinking, once again, Our True History. I know I keep going on about how good I am, but when you're good, you're good. Sorry, Okay, just trying to scroll on. I'm not taking any lives today, but that person was. Don't hate me. Just scrolling down to the next question. This is live, by the way, everybody. I'm reading every single post. I know I do digress sometimes. Deek D has wrote, is there a book list recommendation you could add to your TikTok page, please? It's on my website, ourtruehistory.co.uk. Good question. I have got a links page on my website, outerhistory.co.uk, and it's got books, it's got websites, it's got videos that I recommend. So if you go there, because obviously I don't know what you might be interested in, the more modern aliens, you might be interested in the military side of things, or everything or whatever. So I've put different books that I would recommend if as well as websites and stuff like that. So it's there. Just pop along to outerhistory.co.uk and click on the link page, and you'll see my recommendations. And these are ones that I've read, so I'm not just I wouldn't pick them out if I didn't rate them. Sorry. Paul was wrote, yeah, that was Moses. That was when I was saying about the spacecraft coming down, hearing a loud noise, and he was not allowed to look at the almighty being. Dashers wrote, what happens when we die if we're just engineered? So we have a spirit component. We have, hopefully you heard me a second ago, we have a light energy being orb. They're eternal. We're not. I know people say, religious people, forgive me if you're religious, but obviously they kind of get the two mixed up. They think that us with the gods, Anunnaki, and then they put the spirit orbs, which technically are not anything really to do with the Anunnaki, or certainly wasn't up until they realised that there was these spirits that were leaving people's dead bodies, the humans, not Anunnaki's bodies. And that's when they went mental and crazy over the afterlife back then. That's why we was getting burials and mummification and the Book of the Dead and all this kind of stuff, because they'd only just learnt that there was such a thing as an afterlife in terms of the spirits. So yeah, there's the spirits join with us, and then basically leave us eventually. So we still do die. Winnie's wrote, we'll definitely look up the video after this. I know I love you and your investigation. Oh, bless you, Winnie. Oh, I love you too. Oh. Yeah, you know me. I don't like to be wrong, which is why I make sure that I cross all the dots and everything, which is why I guess people watch my videos. Oh, thank you, Winnie. Sean has wrote, no, not for a little bit with your ultimatums because you want to sleep around. Hey? Hang on a minute. Sean has wrote, no, not for a little bit with your ultimatums because you want to sleep around. Did I miss something? Trust me, I'm the last person that sleeps around. Didn't have no idea what that was. Just scrolling down. Kira's wrote, Winnie's gave me a rose. Winnie, you're going to make him think that I'm sleeping around. Stop it. Kira's wrote, did they create us or edit us both? So there was there was hominid species that Enki had. Well, start from the beginning part of that. Enki had already been messing around in Africa. He'd created some sort of cage system, and he was manipulating animals, more than likely some sort of dinosaurs or elephants or whatever was over there. And yes, dinosaurs were still around at that point. They didn't all die out 65 million years ago. Anyway, and so when him and Enlil and Nimna, Ninharsag, were all talking about, oh dear, what we're going to do because the other Anunnaki are revolting about the working conditions in the mines, he said, I've got an idea. I might be able to genetically modify, I'm paraphrasing here, genetically modify one of the hominids here on Earth. And then Enlil says, we can't have a slave. And then, again, paraphrasing, I'll be doing all this in that long video, so don't you worry, you'll get everything. But with the facts, me reading it out actually as it's translated. And then Enki says, no, it won't be a slave, it will be a co-worker. Enlil says, not in our image. Enki says, yeah, kind of in our image, sorry about that. And so that was it. So they went back. Him and Nimna went back to South Africa, to the place that they. There's a name for it. Sitchin's got the name down. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but there was a particular name, Cradle of Life or something like that. I think it was called, where they was actually doing the manipulations. But Enki showed Nimna and said, "Look at these creatures," and this is the description was one half. This is what she said. One half was the back of one animal, and the front half was another. In other words, Enki was messing around with DNA already. So it wasn't a big stretch of the imagination for him to try and come up with the idea of creating an intelligent species. When I say intelligent enough to do the mining for him, which is what he did from the hominids. Now, the description was that they were upright, but would be in trees, live in trees, which is kind of like a monkey, but in terms of upright, you would have not a monkey, because monkeys don't generally walk all the time upright. So, crap, it done it. I knew it. I was waiting for this. So it scrolled all the way to the bottom. So I've just scrolled all the way to the top. So I've missed a chunk of questions. I hate doing that. It's not me. It's TikTok. It's not designed for people to read out every single question. So I'm now to a point where I can only read the highest one, which is Crystal has wrote, "I am the Lord's bride." So now you do realise that Lord, the first ever writings of Lord there's loads of them. So which particular Lord are you? I know if you go by the Bible, they sort of give the impression that the Lord was the God, but if you go by the tablets that the Bible copied from, then you've got the Great Lord, which was Enki, and then loads of other lords. In fact, that's why we've got Lord Shiva, Lord Krishna, or whatever his name is, and so on, because you can't have all these different gods if they're all gods. But of course they're not. They're just aliens with the name of Lord or God. I think their race name, looking at it, is God. I know we call it God. You say, how the hell could it be the race name? But if we went to another planet and did magical things in 500 years' time, they'd be going, "Oh, humans, let's all worship humans." And so our name, humans, would be synonymous with magical, mystical beings, and it's the same as theirs. So I think the name God, because they have goddesses and gods, actually in the original texts, and obviously Elohim is a name that was translated in Hebrew from the word God. So instead of the other way around, instead of the race being called Elohim, which, like a stupid idiot, I used to think it was, obviously Elohim's a newer translation of the older text, which obviously has got the word God, and therefore there's gods, plenty of them back then. And of course, if you go by the Bible, you're not supposed to take the Lord's name in vain. The Lord's name in vain. Funny that, when you've got so many lords and gods originally before the Bible came along. So yeah. Winnie's telling someone to be patient. Crystals wrote, we need to pray. To who? Enlil and Enki's long gone. So is Nimna. I don't know who you would need to pray to, because they were the ones that created the 6 days and then had the rest on the 7th. I've read out the tablet. You can go read it yourself. I'll be doing it all in the big longer video as well to help everyone understand. So Crystal, if you're interested, you might not be, it sounds like you might be slightly religious, but once that long video is done and it's going to nail everything, there's no one's going to be able to say no. There's a almighty being that worked 6 days and got tired and didn't shave. Funny enough, isn't it, how the Bible God has a white beard? Funny how the Anunnaki had, yes, you guessed it, a white beard. Wake up right now, or suffer, as wrote to Alfredo. Sorry, I missed stuff there. Something, I think it says baby, as wrote Anunnaki real or not? Absolutely 110% real. No one writes 2 million tablets, waffles on about Enlil, Enki and all their offspring and everything else that they did, including things that we wouldn't perceive people to have understood back then. They were they knew it. You know, even to the point of putting the cylinder seals and having all the right planets go around the sun and everything. It's just I can. What? How many planets can I see? Probably none with my naked eye. I wouldn't have known that, you know, Jupiter was a planet, and I wouldn't know that Venus was a planet. I would just look up there and with my naked eye and say, oh, more little stars. That's what I would have said, and that's what they would have said back then. Blue Collar Spiritualist has wrote, Jesus is the way. The problem with that, don't hate me for this, hopefully you're still listening, is that Jesus came along, as you know, approximately 2,000 years ago, and we do know that the Bible isn't actually accurate on many things on Jesus, such as even the date that he was supposed to be born, because if you actually read all the translations properly, you'll realise that it should have been summer, because all the animals are out, and there's a whole long list of things why it was summer that Jesus was born. But anyway, so the other problem we've got with Jesus is we've got gods before him, literally writing about gods before him, more than one. And then you've also got the Egyptian gods, and then you've got the Greek gods, and you've got the Roman gods. Wait, it still comes before Jesus did. And Jesus is supposed to, according to religious people, supposed to let you go through the underworld, or you know, decide whether or not you was good or bad. I'm being brief on that, but you get the idea. And of course, there was 298,000 years of people before Jesus was there. So I want to know what happened to them. Who was their salvation? Who was they trying to please by doing the right thing? No one. So you can't have an almighty being create Jesus, bearing in mind, this is the funny part of that, he creates Jesus in one particular area. Guess where the Anunnaki was? Same place. But anyway, let's forget that. There's a big planet we live on. But let's imagine that Jesus was an almighty being's son, sent down to do one of two things. One, obviously preach. Two, save us. Be born just to die for our sins. Of course, if you actually read the original tablets and even the Bible, God sins, really. I mean, he tries genocide, which was actually the Anunnaki doing it, which was actually Enlil doing it in the first place. And obviously the Bible copied from that, but the translation errors are the problems, because Sumerian, Babylonian, Akkadian, and then Hebrew, and then English, you've got a whole mixture of stuff. Thank you, Kim, for the rose there. But the other problem with the Jesus part is, if I was an almighty being, and I do class myself as a god, using my little brain I've got, I would think, you know what, I will put one of Jesus on each continent, because if he's going around doing his thing, and I'm telling him to go around and, you know, preach or whatever he's supposed to be doing, he's not going to be able to get to Ireland, Canada, you know, Brazil, anywhere really on foot. So as an almighty being, I certainly wouldn't have just put one person in the same place that the Anunnaki was, and all the Anunnaki stories come from there. I mean, is there any stories of I know Jesus may have possibly walked to Egypt, and that's fine, because you can actually walk between Israel and Egypt. It's not like you need a big boat or anything. But it's funny how all the stories back then were, you know, where was Garden of Eden? You guessed it, Mesopotamia. Everything, where did we learn money? What was the first money? Where was that? Canada. No, it wasn't. It was called shekels. Where was that? Yes, you guessed it, Mesopotamia. Where did we learn? Where did pigs come from 10,000 years ago? Mesopotamia. Why are they half human? Because they ran out of food, and the Anunnaki genetically modified humans with wild boars, which is why we've got pigs, which is why the Muslims don't want to eat pigs. It's dirty meat. It's cannibalism. Everything boils down to the Anunnaki. It really does. But if you don't want to see it, there's no problem. Divine has wrote, no, God created us. God is the dreamer, and we all exist in his dream. You do realise that Elohim is plural as well, don't you? And also, Genesis 1:26 says, God made us in their image, plural. And of course, God, Genesis 1:27, changed by man, changed it to his image. So, divine, which one would you go with? Would you go with the original one where it's plural, gods? You do realise also, even that Dan person who does these videos, apparently is a Mormon, even he has done videos explaining that the oldest known priests, etc., all believed that God had a wife and a physical body in Israel. In Israel. Guess where Enlil was with his wife? I'll give you one clue. You guessed it. Israel. Because he had the Enulites, which ended up being translated down the line as, you guessed it, Israelites, because we called it Israel. It just makes so much sense. And guess what Iraq was called? Uruk. So it just... Anyway, La Ray has wrote, all the aliens interfering in our world are colonizers telling people what they want to hear. All the aliens interfering in our world are... I wouldn't say any aliens are interfering with our world in terms of... I suppose you could... I guess what you're saying is manipulating the leaders, not us. Where you're saying telling people what they want to hear, you mean obviously because I haven't actually heard anything from an alien, so I'm guessing what you're saying is the elites are being told what they want to hear, and they're forcing their plans, whatever their plans are, on us. So I guess technically, if that's what you're saying, that's right. User 257 has wrote, add me, I've got evidence. I probably won't add anyone. I've still got 99 messages. Sorry. Every time I do a live with someone, it always seems to go wrong. Alof Me has wrote, I heard that aliens created humans too. Yeah, just watch my videos. I read out the actual tablets where the predates the Bible by thousands of years, literally first ever language, and I read out the translations, which is, who writes all of that stuff? Saxophonies wrote, I believe that dolphins are aliens. It's an I did a video, probably about 100 videos back, where I pointed out that the Anunnaki did actually bring animals with them. They brought goats and certain other animals. And if you believe that Enki is Poseidon or Neptune, Poseidon in the ancient Greek stories also created creatures, created mermaids, which, funny enough, he did. I've watched my Everything You Need to Know About Mermaids. I nail it. But that's on my Patreon page. Sorry, I keep going on about that. But yeah, so there's certain types of creatures here, I think, that have slit eyes. So octopuses, horses, sheep, goats. And I think they were not from here originally. And in fact, if you watch my Everything You Need to Know About Mermaids video, I actually show that the Anunnaki, I show skeletons and evidence that the Anunnaki manipulated other animals with other animals to create an animal that they used to pull their carts or their chariots. We call them chariots now, but it was they weren't actually called chariots originally, because the chariots were actually the spaceships. But anyway, long story. But of course, down the line, we've ended up changing it to chariots, as if they're pulling chariots, but the actual chariots. That's why von Donikin's Chariots of the Gods, and that's what it actually refers to, the chariots. That's the spaceships. Blue Collars wrote, Jesus loves everyone. Yeah, I struggle with the Jesus part, really. Do me a favour, Blue, if you're interested. Go and look up the original translations of Hebrew now with modern language. Jeffrey Doherty done that. He was a priest. And he went back and actually read the tablets. He's got his own website. You can go and look him up, Jeffrey Doherty. And as he reads out the tablets now, or the papyrus, for the Jesus sections of the Bible, they read totally different. They don't read like what we had been translated many years back without knowledge of, you know, lights and UFOs and anti-gravity and spaceships, and without all of that, people translated it. But now, with our knowledge and understanding, he went back and translated it, and literally Mary, the abduction, reads like an alien abduction, which is pretty impressive. Sorry, just scrolling down. I did scroll all the way to the bottom there, so dolphins, and Kenneth wrote, it's not aliens, it's the Nephilim. Technically, if you're going to be, because you didn't say I believe, so I'm going to have to tear you up a little bit on that. Technically, if you actually read the translations, plus also the even the Bible, the Nephilim didn't come along until after humans were created. So you can't have the Nephilim creating humans when we're already now here. And the Nephilims are actually the giants of the offspring off of Anunnaki and humans. Some of them had gigantism. Not all of them, because there's many stories where, you know, the younger ones wasn't 20, 30, 40, 50 foot tall. But some of them did get that tall, apparently. But of course, by then, if they're the offspring of humans, then when you wrote it's not aliens, it's Nephilim, technically it can't be, because obviously Nephilim are offspring of the humans, so therefore the logic doesn't work there, Ken. Sorry, but feel free to follow my videos and learn. Dalton's wrote evolution is a fact. I 100% agree with you, Dalton. I'm guessing what you're trying to say here is I'm wrong, but no, I agree with you. The only thing that we can't prove was the jump from hominid to humans, or Homo sapiens, and that's because we was genetically modified. So evolution is real. I 100% believe that. But the one thing that was changed is us. So technically you're right, Dalton, but you was trying to do it, I guess, as a way to knock me down by saying no such thing as aliens. But yes, we're here, and we yeah. Pablo's wrote Anunnaki are real. Yes, well done. You've obviously done your homework. Great. Fernando has wrote, what would win in a half mile, a Helicat or a 800 BMHB? So he carries on about something to do with a VTech and a laptop. However, Fernando then wrote, sorry for being a numpty. I do actually think you're a genius. Please delete my account. Oh, Fernando, you mean block you for being a numpty? Okay, but I do appreciate you saying that I'm a genius. That's very nice of you. So I'm just going to block you because you asked me to. By doing that, everybody, it puts people off writing, because they know it's just going to be deleted. All of Me, 91, there was a film called All of Me with Steve Martin, has wrote, but mums create humans, Homo sapiens. They do indeed, yes. But it's the old chicken and egg is what you're really getting down to, and you're saying, well, there would have had to have been a human mum in order to create a human. However, there was an Anunnaki mum that created the first humans, in fact 7 of them, which created 7 males and 7 females, genetically chosen to be 7 males and 7 females. That's how good the Anunnaki are. However, going by our military, they've been probably able to do that for a very long time. Obviously, our mainstream scientists and doctors and whatever can only just manipulate now whether or not you're going to have a boy or girl, but you can guarantee that the military had that technology a long time ago. Preston's wrote, if that's the case, how come we never seen Damascus steel or a microchip found? I understand more. If that's the case, how come we never see Damascus steel or microchip found? I understand more. I don't know what that's referring to. I did miss a whole chunk because TikTok scrolled me all the way to the bottom. So forgive me. This is live, everybody. I'm trying to read out as many questions as I can, but I don't understand what that's referring to. I'm so sorry. Saxophonies wrote, bees must be alien as well, such organised society. Apparently bees, I found out recently, bees actually also have anti-gravity. Look that up. It's interesting. Trinity wrote, can I talk about a connection I found, please? You'll love it, I promise. Follow me if you're not already following me. It doesn't look like you are. And then we can set up a live chat one day if you want. But I say that to people, they never bother. Only because there's 99 people, and if I let you suddenly on now, people will be going, oh, he's not reading my question out. Dalton's wrote, ancient astronaut theory is just one big argument from ignorance. Are you trying to say that the ancient astronaut theory is fake? Only because there's 2 million tablets, carvings, statues, fused chromosomes, and everything comes from exactly the same place the Anunnaki did. And they also talk about things that we didn't even know about, like the ice caps on Mars. We couldn't even see the Mars back then. They talk about the asteroid belt called the Hammer Bracelet. So I would certainly say it's not a theory. You can't have the first ever language suddenly appear, by the way, unless you know how to write already, to actually telling us all this kind of stuff that we only found out a few hundred years ago about asteroid belts and some of the other planets that they actually literally put in their cylinder seals. La Ray has wrote, God created humans and all beings in the universe. That's because you went by Genesis, didn't you? Bless you, my child. I can show you the original translation where it's basically talking about Enki teaching. Yes, Enki teaches for the first 6 days what he wants done, cataloguing plants on one day, water on another, birds, animals, soil, and so on for the 6 days. It's all in there, and I'll be doing that video. But you can go and look it up now. It's not hidden. In fact, I've done it on my videos. I've read it out. But so where you've gone by a newer version of something, now that you're aware that there's an older version, and there's no denying that, it's there. You can go read other people's translations of it. Now that you're aware that Enki said on the 7th day, this will be a day of rest. I'm paraphrasing. Now that you know that, when you write God created humans and all beings in the universe, does that change your mind? It bloody well would me. If someone says to me, hang on a minute, the book you've just read, there's an older version and it's kind of like what you've read, but it's not so much. It's, if you read it properly, you realise that it's to do with a person called Enki, an Anunnaki. And bearing in mind, we've now got the tablet to do with Noah in the British Museum, and it starts with Enki tells Zazudra, which was Noah, about the impending doom and that he's got to build this ark, and these are the measurements and da-da-da. So now, Lorraine, now that you know that Enki is the great Lord that we talk about, our Father who art in space, does that change your mind? And if not, then bless you, my child. Wake Up has wrote, Jesus is everything. Technically not so much, no. I mean, but it's up to you. I'm just saying you're on my channel here, and I wouldn't go on yours. And if you were talking about Jesus, I wouldn't go on there and say, you do realise, and then splat out loads of facts that would make Jesus appear not from an almighty being. Funny, Jesus' skin glowed as well, just like Moses. Now, who was Moses, and who was Noah? Noah was Enki's son. His skin glowed. Anunnaki's skin. Pow, blue eyes, blonde hair. Interesting. Anyway, just throwing it out there for you. Miss Solace has wrote, I am the alien. I have my own little alien too that I created. Oh, bless you. Hopefully they don't grow up to want from bank of mum and dad like my children. Saxophony has wrote, if we want human evolution to continue, we'll have to discourage Republicans from breeding. Unfortunately, I'm not American, so I don't really know one side of the other over there. I just know that all leaders really are manipulated by people behind the scenes, unfortunately. Ken has wrote Orphan Trains. Don't know what that's referring to. This is live, everybody. I'm reading every single questions. Winnie's wrote more information on the website, YouTube, and Patreon. Oh, thank you, Winnie. Yes, I do have a website if anyone wants to watch thousands of videos. I go through all sorts of things from crop circles. Do you know the one thing that I thought people would ask me about when I first started doing this was the cattle mutilations and human mutilations, which is the same thing where they, I won't go into graphic detail, but there is human and even cat mutilations. I thought people would ask me all about the how they, but no. Anyway, Crystals wrote "Pray and Believe," and then Crystal wrote "Good luck." People were chatting to each other. Saxophonies wrote "Bees are aliens." I don't know whether they are or not. I can't say for sure. That's an interesting thought. Ken has wrote, "Wheels in the sky keep on turning." That sounds like a name of words of a song, if I remember correctly. Madonna's wrote, "The only way that could happen is that Homo sapiens interacted with Neanderthals. That is only..." I'm trying to find the next bit. So, Madonna, just to give you a bit of explanation. So Neanderthal, Homo erectus, Denivisms, Homo florensis, and the thousands of other names that's out there for all these different hominids, they all bred with each other apparently. And that's not me saying that, that's science saying that, because they found skulls and skeletons of half this and half that. So Neanderthal, which I believe was this point, and unless I'm told otherwise with evidence, Neanderthal matches the description more closely than Homo erectus, for example. That they're the ones that was genetically modified. And again, if you've just joined, Princeton University has now said that Neanderthal DNA is in black people. So before anyone starts saying you're wrong, anyway, so Neanderthal bred with various different hominids. Humans then bred back with, according to scientists, bred with the Neanderthals and Homo erectus and everything else. So everyone bred with everyone, but the creation came from one hominid, as written in the tablets, and there were 7 males and 7 females that was created to breed over and over, so that they could do the mining for the. Sorry, I'm just scrolling all the way back. It scrolled all the way to the bottom there. Sorry. I hate that when that happens. Sorry, it just distracts me when that happens. It throws me right off. Just going back to the questions. This is live. I'm trying to read out as many questions as I can. Always do. Republicans nearly there. Orphan trains. Pray and believe. Talk amongst yourselves. Bees. The wheels keep on turning. Crystal M's wrote, "Spirit is eternal, body is meat." Correct. The orbs, the light energy beings that are nothing to do with us, really, in the big scheme of things, other than the fact that they join with us to learn over and over. Yeah, you're right. We're nothing. It's them that's the eternal things, and the actual oldest reference to that is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, where they literally explains that they come from with the Big Bang, and they came along with another species of entity, which is called the Darkness. I'm yet again, our True History is the only one that's actually worked out that that's in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. They're actually talking about more than likely the Jinn. I'm certainly the only one that's worked out that they're talking about another species that they eternally fight with, because it literally says it, but no one's ever put that together and worked it all out. So yes, there was 2 species that came along at the beginning, if you believe the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Ken has wrote, "Anunnaki are not gods." Well, if their race name is gods, Ken, then they're gods. See, so let's just look at it from another perspective. You come to another planet, you mess around, you leave, and the indigenous people that you've now created call you a human. and they worship you as a human. Yeah? Do you see my point there? So now, if I said to you, you're not a human, you'd be, what are you on about? It's no different from them being called God. If that's their race name, you can't say they're not gods. Now, what you're really trying to say is they're not magical, mystical beings that float around and blah, blah, blah. That's correct. But if their race name is gods, then you can't say they're not gods. Same as humans. Just scrolling down. Trinity's wrote, please just let me come in and chat. I'm going to give you more research and look into the connection dots. I'm more than happy to. Feel free to follow me and send me a message on any video that I do. I've got a website. You can go and click contact me, ourtruehistory.co.uk, and then we can set up a live chat. I like to do it in advance because I've had disasters where I'm chatting to people and they have no knowledge, or they're trying to get me to do some sort of game thing to help Libya or to help Ukraine or something. I don't know. So it always ends up in a disaster. Mr. Solis wrote, our souls are eternal, our carcass is not. Correct. And it's not our souls. It's not our souls because there is such a thing as reincarnation. If you don't believe me, go look at Virginia University, University of Virginia, where they proper studies. It's not kids doing it. It's been studies for the last 100 years. And they've got the cases to show that reincarnation is real. Because if it's our souls, then when it goes back round, then there'll be two souls in that person. Of course, then when that person dies, then the next person's going to have three souls because those two have joined with the. So it's not our souls. It's a light energy being that joins with us and then buggers off. It's as simple as that. Dan has wrote, did Adam and Eve come from Mars? No, they didn't. Actually, we've got the original tablets. I'll be going through the whole of this in order on my Patreon page. I've already done one video on that particular subject. So no, Adapa and Titi, which was the original names for them, were the offspring off of Enki and two human women. So 300,000 years ago, Anunnaki, Enki creates the first humans. They mine, they get, they procreate. This ends up being over 200,000 years, a hell of a lot of humans bred. And at some point, around 100,000 years ago, Enki looks at two of these human women and thinks, you know what? Hello, ladies. How you doing? How you doing? And then basically has his wicked way with them, and they both get pregnant. And these are human women, and they have two children, a boy and a girl. And Enki's vizier, again, I've read all these out. Enki's vizier tells Enki about these two women that he was with, as basically had babies, and they don't look quite like the normal people that we've already created. In other words, they're lighter skinned. That would be my take on it, because they wouldn't be taller at this point. Why wouldn't they be taller? Because they're only babies. So something's different about them compared to the darker skinned people that they'd created 200,000 years before. So the logic would be that the pale skinned Anunnaki bred with the two human women. And the vizier says, this ain't the same. People's going to notice. In other words, someone's going to say, hang on a minute, an Anunnaki's bred with these bloody humans. So the logic would be straight away that the skin colour or hair colour matches the Anunnakis. So that's when Enki says to him, stick them in some reed baskets, push them down the river. Yeah, I know you've heard all the Moses story with the reed baskets as well. But yeah, and then pretend you find them, and then bring them to me, which he did. And then Enki went round telling everyone, oh, look what we found. A few people knew. You read the tablets later on, and you realise that pretty much everyone knew what Enki had done. But they were, and then he called them the civilised ones. Now, again, I know people will go, well, hang on a minute, if they're white, how can they more civilised than the darker skinned ones? It doesn't work like that. Basically, if you read the tablets, over 200,000 years of inbreeding from 7 females and 7 males, Thank you. I am for the rose. So 200,000 years of inbreeding. They actually said that the humans that they'd created were a bit. I don't know what the word is. You know, had problems. They weren't corpus mentis. They were a bit a Bud Light short of a full pack, so to speak. Only because of the inbreeding. It's nothing to do with anything else. But of course, the offspring off of Enki, with his loins and his, more than likely intelligence as a more intelligent species, gave birth to Adam and Eve, or Adipa and Titi, and he said that they were civilized. That was his words, and that's why he took Adam to Eden, to show Enlil, and Enlil saw Adipa wearing a loincloth, and at this point none of the humans were wearing any kind of clothes, which means something. You read into it as you will. I don't know what went through Enlil's head, but obviously he didn't like that, and the fact that he was smart enough to learn language by the time Enki took him over to him, and learn stuff, and he was in a place where there was knowledge, in other words, the spaceships and whatever else, and Enlil said, send them back to Abzu. So we know that Eden wasn't in the Abzu. I know some people say, well, there's lots of Edens, and you could probably say there was, but certainly the Abzu Eden wasn't there at the time when Adam was taken to Enlil in the Garden of Eden. That was somewhere in Mesopotamia, more than likely Israel, which is just happens to be where the god that ancient priests used to say come from. Oh, crazy. How it just all makes sense, but no one seems to piece it all together. Frank, this is live, by the way, everybody. I'm reading every single question. Sorry if I do waffle, but hopefully it's somewhat interesting. It scrolled all the way to the bottom. I'm scrolling quickly, desperately back to the top. I hate when it does that. I'm going to read everyone's questions out. I'll just be a little bit quicker this time. Bloody hell, there's a lot of questions. Sorry about this. Right, scrolling back down to try and find where I was. Okay, Trinity's wrote, please just come, let me in. I'll read that one. Our souls are eternal. This is live, everybody. I've got a website, altruhistory.co.uk. Did they come from Mars? Frank wrote, that's why they made the movie Avatar. I think James Cameron is well up. I mean, look at all the movies. He did, The Abyss with aliens, and obviously did Aliens with aliens in it. So, some of these directors that make movies, Spielberg as well, that are in, they know, they're clued up. Lisa's wrote, aliens make the most sense, so I'm with you 100%. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Hopefully you've watched some of my videos which show some of the things that I point out. Yvonne's wrote, I think that aliens create human beings. That's correct. They did. They're a race technically called God, as far as I'm aware, because it makes sense. If you read the tablets, they talk about gods. They talk about themselves as gods and lords. Reach Petite has wrote, if there are alien military, why would they allow countries to have nuclear weapons? Well, there's a couple of different trains of thought. So if you're referring to the Anunnaki, then they already had nukes. They've used nukes. We've got the evidence that they've used nukes here on Earth back in the past, which is why. Anyway, that's another story. I don't know whether they've aware that they are not as technical as the Greys, for example. They're not as far advanced, whereas the Greys can literally sniff out a nuclear weapon, which they've done, fly over the silo, which they've done. There's that's backed up by the people that actually work in the silos. Beam a light down, either destroy the PCB on it or actually set it to go off in like a minute's time or whatever. They can do all of that. So they have told military, little greys and stuff have told, or tall whites have told military, stop using nukes because it destroys the souls, the light energy beings, the orbs. Possibly also creates a tear in time and space. Maybe that's some stories are out there that the first one over in Mexico, the first nuke that they used, created a rip in space, which is why this is their versions of it, some aliens that are interdimensional are coming through it. I don't know whether that's true or not. I think all the races that I'm aware of have home planets here in our universe, not in another universe. I've heard stories about interdimensional ones, but they're just stories at this point in my head. So they do try and stop the nukes. Martin's wrote, what about the Bible? A Bible is literally, if you watch any of my videos or go and look at the original translations, to help you out, there's a translation from 1912, so nothing to do with the person called Zachariah Sitchin, and it's called The Cuneiform Parallels to the Old Testament. So the cuneiform is the writing style, and it shows you how the Old Testament is a copy of the older text, which are the cuneiform. So it literally spells it out, but obviously not many people want to hear that or even bother reading it. Teresa's wrote, Jesus created humans. Again, Jesus came along 2,000 years ago, give or take. Humans were here 300,000 years ago. The math doesn't quite work on that one. And you could say, well, he was here before that, but technically then what was the point of him being born 2,000 years ago? If he was doing stuff 3,000 years ago, 300,000 years ago, creating humans, what was the point of him being born 2,000 years ago? Yeah, you see what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense. Fina's wrote aliens, and then King James. Oh crap! It's just scrolled to the bottom. Yeah, I mean, as King James obviously referring to the Bible that's heavily changed and redacted and whatever else they've done to it. Sorry, I'm just scrolling all the way back to the top. Hey, TikTok's not designed for people like me to read everyone's questions. I apologise for this. Sorry, just trying to... I just read something. I think someone wrote, watching YouTube is not research. Oh, bless that person that wrote that. They think that. So if you are listening, trust me, I've been doing this 40 years. This isn't my first rodeo. I've been on radio shows, long ones, American ones that you all know and love if you're interested in this kind of stuff, with Richard Serrett and Fade to Black. And the only one I haven't been on was Coast to Coast. Sorry, I'm still trying to... here we are. Thank you, Winnie. Right, back up now. Roby Dean has wrote, damn. Crystals wrote, the end is now. Do you know they said that back in World War One, World War Two? They probably said it in older wars as well, but I hear what you're saying. Dion has wrote, do you care to share? Oh, sorry, it just scrolled all the way to the bottom again. Oh, why does it do that? And now it's... Sorry, now I've missed... Yeah, it's not letting me go any further, so it's caught up more on the... Forgive me if I've not read yours out, it's not intentional. Zelix wrote, did you drop school? Yes, I did, actually, funny enough. I did. So I know that's obviously a dig at me, but yes, I was in special needs, believe it or not. You can believe it if you think I'm thick, but yeah, I was in special needs. Since then, I've done all right for myself. Yeah. When I was 16, 17, 18, I couldn't even do the alphabet. Sherry's wrote, we're having to mute loads of people. Thank you, Sherry. That's why it scrolls to the bottom. No problem. Thanks for letting me know. And hi, Sherry. I don't remember seeing your name pop up earlier. Thank you. Archangels wrote, the earth is hell, and in the future, sorry, that was just weird. Archangels wrote, the earth is hell in the future after death is defeated. Technically, if death's defeated, then more than likely you're ethereal. In other words, you don't have a physical body. like the energy orbs. So in order for them to be in hell, they would need to be stuck here on Earth, because you just said that Earth is hell. So you would need some sort of way of keeping those energy here forever, because if you, as you said, after death is defeated. Yeah, the logic doesn't sit right with me on that one. Sorry. Lazy Arse has wrote, which humanoid type mixed with aliens? Who created the aliens? I thought aliens were future us. So, right. For those of you listening, we can now create life from chemicals. It's a fact. I did a video on it. You can go and look it up. 5 chemicals that scientists have named. Don't ask me to name them. They're all names I'd never be able to remember. And they create life. So that's how life can start. So I know when people, certainly religious people, say to me, who created the aliens? Chemicals. Everything's a chemical. Space chemical, rocks chemical, trees chemical. Everything's a chemical. According to scientists, I'm not a scientist, but apparently everything's a chemical. And when you've got 5 of these particular chemicals together and you mix them together, you end up creating a life which obviously over billions of years will probably get more than whatever that they've now created. But anyway, the point is, so that answers your question on who created the aliens and chemicals. Which type of hominid? I think Neanderthal. Could be wrong, but that's from my research. I think it was Neanderthal. And you wrote, I thought aliens were the future of us. I did too, don't anymore. All the aliens have been accounted for that I'm aware of. None of them started here. So, yeah. I guess you could argue, well, maybe we went further out in the future and then from there moved to Zeta Reticuli, for example, but I don't think so. Yeah. Oh, crap, sorry, just done it again. I was just about to read Pamela's message. Sorry, back up again. I'm near the top. Pamela's wrote, are things in our oceans? Yes. I'm guessing you're referring to UFOs as opposed to big creatures. Lazy Ass has given me a rose. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, the ocean is big. I mean, we can't even find MH, whatever it was, 170 in the ocean. So it's huge. And when the visibility is literally, hand in front of your face with a big light, you have to rely on radar and all these kind of things. Thank you, Lacy Arse. You don't have to. I appreciate it. But yeah, UFOs certainly, or USOs, unidentified submerged objects, or submersible. They have been there for a long time. I mean, Eisenhower reported seeing one come out of the ocean when he was working on a ship before he became president. So lots of stories of UFOs coming out of the waters. And interestingly, the disc-shaped ones, they have this is interesting. They come out of the water, they hover for probably 10 seconds or so. Thank you, Beatrice. They hover for 10 seconds or so, and there is a vortex of water that's still connecting the ship to the ocean. So in other words, it becomes like a typhoon, like a twister, and it's connected to it, which goes along with the description that the liquid mercury type substance, not necessarily liquid mercury, however, apparently we can do it with liquid mercury, but I think it's not particularly liquid mercury. But anyway, it's a substance very similar to liquid mercury that's super cooled using magnets as well to spin it round at a certain speed, creates the gravitational field. So with that, as the fact that this liquid's going round and round and round at very high speed, super cooled, would that hold the suction to the anti-gravity field that it generates and cause the water to go up in that spiral effect? I would say yes, it does. And that's also another way of them actually drawing energy in. I mean, there was that massive planet-sized object that was spotted by the sun, which was actually sucking up energy, and then eventually it was there for 3 or 4 days, but it was a time-lapse footage. If you don't understand, just go and Google it. Just type in Earth-sized planet sucking up power from the sun, and you'll see. And eventually that leaves. But again, that had a toroidal type effect. Anyway, sorry. Lucy's wrote Star People. So star, yeah, technically, I mean, anyone that's not from our planet, I guess you could say, are star people. Bearing in mind, stars are actually suns, so it's hard to say. I mean, whoever gave that description is a bit silly. And there's me getting told that I'm. Did I drop out of school? And there's me educating people. But yeah, technically, a sun is a star. So star people would be very hot. So they're people from planets around stars. But yeah, the star people. I mean, there's a lot of people that's got different views on star people. So, for example, Lloyd Pye would say the star people was what he had, which was a star child skull, which looked like a sort of an alien grey type skull, if there was such a thing as an alien type grey skull, with the big eyes, sockets, and big bulbous head. But then there's other people that talk about star seeds. Again, shouldn't really be called star, but star seeds, where they are the orbs that's inside people on other planets. In other words, orbs that's left Earth and now joined with someone else, but another alien race. They were supposedly due to come back in the 60s. They were asked to come back to help raise our consciousness. So there's a lot of sort of star this and star that, but for the Anunnaki, they're just they're in our solar system on a planet called Nibiru or Nibru, which is why a lot of people don't actually find it when they type in Nibiru with the extra I. Tinfoil Tammy's wrote, what do you think the purse-looking thing was that the Anunnaki are holding? I've looked into it a hell of a lot, and I found the same same purse in Egypt, in a museum. Even with the little curly bit on the it's a spitting image. It's just a bag. Literally, it's just a bag. I mean, if you look at their clothes, because they don't have pockets. There's no pockets whatsoever, and they do have things that they hold. They have their jewelry, and Inanna had makeup. So whatever was in that bag was important to them. That they would carry around with them. You'd think, this is why I say they're not that smart. You'd think they would have sewed freaking, if they can have clothes, which they did, because we've got the carvings of them wearing all sorts of, not robes necessarily, which is funny how God ends up looking like he's wearing a robe on many ancient pictures, paintings, very similar to the Anunnaki's robes, which, again, how could people not see that the Anunnaki are God with the white beard, white hair, robe? Anyway, so yeah, I think it's just a bag. Archangels wrote, the New Jerusalem will take the best of humanity to the new earth where the righteousness dwells. Yeah, I probably wouldn't say that myself. Lemons wrote RH blood baby, negative. So that would be, from my research, would be the Anunnaki's own blood type, the RH negative. Everything matches. Roddy Clark has wrote, the new movie Guardians of the Galaxy is about Anunnaki. Yeah, I heard that. Thank you, Roddy. Yeah. You're making me want to go to the cinema tomorrow now. I don't know. Yeah, I've heard that. So that's interesting. Jane has wrote 8:30. I'm 13 minutes behind. Thank you, Jane. Appreciate that. You deserve a cup of tea for that, Jane. Seth has wrote, we're alien primate hybrids. Fox P2 protein in our DNA. Sounds like you've been doing your homework, sir. Well done. Forgive me if I called you sir and you're not, but I'm old school. Jenny's wrote, aliens are demons in disguise. Open your eyes and realise the truth. The problem with that, Jenny, is you've now just said every single species of aliens are demons. So first of all, you've admitted that there's aliens, even though you're calling them demons. And if you admit that there's aliens, then you have to admit that there's more than one type of alien. Would you agree? You can't just say there's only one type of alien out there and that's a demon. So if we've got something from somewhere else, e.g. not from Earth, therefore it's an alien. So you would agree with that, I'm hoping. Then you'd say, well, if one lot of these things are out there, then there could be more, seeing as we've got eyewitness accounts of many different types of aliens. So you've now just said every single type of alien is a demon in disguise. You do realise that as soon as we land on another planet, Jenny, we are aliens. It's true. There's no getting around that. So now we're demons. You see my point? So you try not to use the word demon, because demon technically actually is just something you find evil. Because if I ask you to describe a monster, which is something you find scary, you'll never be able to do it. You'll just make up any old thing, and then that's the problem. You kind of make up stuff to fit you what you want. Why not just look at it, Jenny? I don't mean to sound rude, but forget the demons, because you'll never be able to describe a demon. You've literally just said every single alien race is a demon, so it just doesn't make sense. Instead of saying the demons, why not just say aliens are out there? Some are good, some are bad, some take us for nefarious reasons. And that will make a lot more sense. So when you say at the end of your message, open your eyes and realise the truth, I would probably rather go with my truth than yours. Unki Choppers wrote, can you start again? I just joined. Bless you. No, this is live, by the way, everybody. I'd read out every single question. Mark has wrote, how about a woman's... luckily, I read slightly ahead. I'm just going to block this person, because I think that's quite naughty bad, what they wrote. And there we go. Rob has wrote, how many theories do you... Oh, crap, sorry. Scrolled all the way to the bottom. Wonder if that's because I blocked that person. Sorry, it's TikTok. It's not made for reading. Right, nearly there. How many theories do you want to use? What about the aliens? Well, there's only one in terms of who created humans. We've got the carvings, we've got the statues, we've got the evidence, literally, of them being smarter than us, teaching us everything over in Sumeria, which is the first place that they said they was going to teach people, and lo and behold, everyone learnt from there. You got to have a teacher. If someone's teaching something, you got to have someone that's got the knowledge to teach people. So when the tablets say that they're going to start teaching people in 4 different territories, and the first one being Shuma, which is now Sumeria, someone there had the knowledge before everyone else. Otherwise, they kind of would have all had it. Pamela's wrote, flat Earth, anyone? Please, no. No. There's too many questions for me to go into the flat Earth, why it's round. Just watch my pinned video, if anyone could ever answer that, which they can't. Scott Walker's wrote, you haven't researched or verified anything. You've fallen for confirmation bias on YouTube. Grow up. Oh, bless you, Scott. Hopefully you're still listening. First of all, I don't really watch other people's YouTubes. In fact, you'll find that a lot of the other researchers actually are using my research now, which is interesting. I've been doing this for 40 years, Scott, so YouTube wasn't around for 40 years ago. So what you've done there, Scott, is you've showed me... Sorry to do this to you. This is how my brain works. But you've showed me that you're angry by using the word grow up. And you realise that you... haven't done any research, because if you had, you'd be agreeing with me. So that shows me that you're narrow-minded. And you wrote, you've fallen for confirmation bias on YouTube, which means you're probably a millennial in your mother's basement. Sorry about that. Tristronu has wrote, RH negative, we have angel DNA. Angels are messengers. Right, let me just set the record straight for anyone that's listening. Hebrew writings are translated off of other things. There's regardless of what religion you are, that's the way it works. So the word Elohim is a translation of the word God, or gods, plural, which just so happens to be Anunnaki. right? So that's the fact. There's no, we're not, no one can dispute that. That the Hebrew changes the word from God to Elohim. That's their translation. Angel is a translation again in Hebrew of the word messenger, not a freaking winged being. So then you look at the word messenger and you go back to the ancient tablets that the Bible copied from, or the Hebrew copied from. Obviously, there's Aramaic, Babylonian and Assyrian, all these kind of different languages that the Bible nicked from, and well, not nicked, tried to recreate, but obviously got it wrong, and Sumerian as well. So when you go back to the older tablets that predate the Bible and you look up the word messenger, guess what the messengers are doing? Exactly the same crap that the angels were doing in the Bible. Going around chatting to people, having relationships, sitting down, knocking on their doors, having a cup of tea. They do. Now, you talk to a religious person. I've listened to religious people on, these radio stations that I do sometimes listen to because I'm interested to see what their take is on things. And I listened to one where they was going, but how did the angels have relationship with human women? And one of them went, they turned into a physical form. What a pile of crap. Excuse me, but what a pile of crap. I could very well say, you know what? They were supermen. They had a big S on there. You can make up whatever crap you want. If you're going to make up crap, because he's got no evidence for that. He just said, they turned into human people. Go away. Stop. Grow up. There you go. Now I'm sounding like that person. But the point is, angel is a messenger, which is just another Anunnaki, and it's got the names of the messengers as well. In the older tablets, Laurie's wrote, and we humans are energy so wet. I'm guessing we can't destroy due to the water here and energy maybe. So I'll read that again. And we humans are energy. Technically, yes, we do give off electricity and energy, I guess, yeah. So we can't destroy. Technically we can die. The orbs apparently are eternal that join with us. Levers wrote, where are the aliens? Sorry, I'm just going to have a quick drink. Forgive me, this is live, everybody. Where are the aliens? Which particular aliens? The Anunnaki are back on their home planet. They pretty much didn't want to stay here, really, because it affected their heads. I've read the tablets out where it says that Nimna had to try and, help them because it was the whether it's the sun, the speed of the spinning, the gravity, whatever the reason was, they were having a hard job of it here. So, and technically they were only here for a few years, even though they were here of our years, nearly 440 odd thousand years. So yeah, they don't want to come back really and stay here anyway. The Juice is Loose has wrote, we are from space. Technically, no, we're hybrids from a race called the Anunnaki, well, called gods, but we know them as Anunnaki. And for those of you who don't know why they're called Anunnakis, when King Anu we had 900 here on Earth. 300 ended up going to Mars as a way station. They were called the Ajiji. That name was given to them by King Anu, and the name Anunnaki was given to the ones left here on Earth. So the translation is those from, thank you Melina, those from the translation of Anunnaki forget Dr. Michael Heiser, where he says princely seeds. I just done a video which totally destroys him. Sorry if I sound big-headed, but and that's on my Patreon page. But anyway, even ChatGDP, which is not Sitchin and it's not Michael Heiser, says that the word Anunnaki translates from those heaven came to earth. Kai, or Ki, Ki at the end of it, and if you actually look at how the Anunnaki wrote their words, they would put the thing at the end of it. So instead of saying, you know, we've arrived at Earth, on Earth we came, they would put it the other way around. So anyway, that's the reason why Chi is, or Key is at the back of that. Sorry if I waffle. I do get digressed. Just Juno's wrote angels. Please, there's no such thing as angels, as messengers. It's funny how easy people is to believe a book, isn't it, without actually doing the research. If you do the research, you'll find it says messenger. It's a 2-second job. Just ask Google. And you'll say, maybe he's right. Maybe they are messengers. Maybe they were Anunnaki. Maybe I should research, or maybe I should start following outerhistory.co.uk. Zuzu has wrote, I know it. Tinfoil has wrote, what do you think the purse looking... I've done that one already. It's just a bag as far as I'm aware. Jenny's wrote, have you researched? Is there any evidence on your alien theory? Yes, feel free to watch any of my videos. And the people that follow me will tell you that I've nailed it. It's not just me. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the one figured it out. There's like I say, there's cuneiform parallels to the Old Testament. Literally says it all, and that was 1912. Talks about Enki and Enlil and all the Anunnaki, really. Giga Todd has wrote, different aliens are like That's what he wrote. The Juice is Loose has wrote Egyptian. If it's a question I do know a fair bit about ancient Egypt, but I'd like it in a question format just so I know. You've then wrote older, a paragraph after. Egyptian older, not older than Sumeria. I know there's one or two people that will say it is, but literally every other, including the tablets, say that the first place that they was going to teach people was Sumeria. So Shuma, Shuma, I think it was. Sorry, it scrolled to the bottom. Sorry. Oh, this is why it takes me so long. Sorry. Just trying to find where I was now. Oh, God, sorry. Someone's wrote, called Joe Rogan, and just saw as I was in past. Who created aliens? Someone's wrote, just while I'm still scrolling up, chemicals. Go look up. Just typing on Google, can you create chemicals? In the last 6 months, you'll see that using about 5 different chemicals, you can actually create life. Okay, nearly back. Protein, flat earth, anyone? Sorry. Do follow me if you're interested in this. I don't just talk about aliens, I talk about portals, crop circles, pretty much everything. The only thing I don't really do is cults, like the what the elites go into, the Illuminati and that. I know a bit, but I try not to go too far into that. Tumadus wrote, ask them why they make us such horrible beings. We're in their image. If you read their tablets, they are no different from us. They have wars. In fact, they sent us to do their wars. We was the Enulites versus the Hittites and all this kind of stuff. And Canaanites. Guess who's Cain? You guessed it, Cain out of Cain and Abel, because he left and he set up his own little army. But yeah, they're no different from us, unfortunately. TV's wrote, one day all the tongues will confess and all knees will bow to our Lord, Saviour and King Jesus Christ. Old TV. If I told you that there's older text that the Bible copied from, would you forget everything else, even though there is? But let's just ask that one simple question: would you still go with what you believe, even though you know now that there's older texts that don't actually quite say what the more modern text says, simply because man changed it? And if you don't believe me, look at Genesis 1:26, 1:27. It changed it, and you're now talking about our Lord Saviour. But he wasn't there for 298,000 years. What happened to those poor buggers before that? when humans were around. Sean has wrote Genesis and Revelations are coded. Possibly. I've not seen that. The juice is loose as wrote older than old. I'm guessing you're referring to ancient Egypt. Egypt is old. It's older than what people think, for sure. I've been saying that. Watch all my old previous lives. They're on YouTube if you want. Egypt is not, didn't spring up before the Great Flood. It was around before that, but and it wasn't a flood. The juice is loose as wrote Tartaria. No, the Tartarian Empire is only 500 years old. It was a Mongolian empire. There is no technically advanced civilization called the Tartarian Empire that had mobile phones and was flooded over by mud, and then suddenly all the books disappeared that anyone ever mentioned the word. No. User 63 has wrote, how can nukes destroy souls if a soul is energy? Well, this is, I don't know the answer to this, but apparently it's the one time that I heard that from a whistleblower said that it shattered it. And I know it's going to sound crazy, I'm just going back from memory, but they said they tried to repair it. Not humans, but the aliens that this person was referring to, which is why they say we shouldn't use nukes. I don't know how energy can be shattered. Maybe a physicist or someone could probably answer that. Can you disperse energy? More than likely. Does lightning branch off? Yes, it does. What happens if that branches off? Look at the Faraday cage, for example. That blocks energy in terms of electrical energy. So, can a nuke with whatever chemical or electrical interference that has, can that shatter another electrical energy? Possibly. Archangel's life was not on this planet 200,000 years ago. Life was not. So you're saying dinosaurs, troglobites, all these kind of things are not on this planet 200,000 years ago? Is that what you're saying, Archangel? Are you actually saying that everything started in terms of life 200,000 years ago? Careful when you say the word life. Or do you actually mean Homo sapiens was not on this planet 200,000 years ago? Is that what you're saying? Too precious for you. The Bible has been rewritten so many times by man craving power. Spot on. Lemon Trees wrote, not alien primitive hybrid if you are RH negative. I believe that the RH negative is the Anunnaki's blood, so you would be a descendant off of, lineage all the way back to one of the Anunnaki breeding with humans. And they probably bred a lot. Robbers wrote Jesus is God, even though the original tablets that predate the Bible literally says Enki, Enlil, Ninharsag, Ninurta. All of those are gods. How does that work if they're not allowed to say the name God? Could it not be them that's gods? They also called themselves lords as well, interestingly, which is just so happens the Bible sort of seems to have copied the same words as that. So either the Anunnaki that called themselves gods knew about God and decided to mimic God, or they were the gods and the Bible's just changed it to single. You do realise the Bible changed it to single, don't you, Rob? Rob, which version are you going to go with? You're going to go with Genesis 1:26 or 1:27? You're going to go with the man-made version, aren't you? Why? Because everyone else has. Oh, Rob. Go with the plural version if I was you. Tinfoil was wrote, what do you think? I've read that one. Shane has wrote, humans have been around much longer than the establishment narrative, correct? The Juices Looses wrote, let's go. I'm not sure what that's referring to. This is live, everybody. Do have a website, outrohistory.co.uk. I'm on YouTube if anyone wants to watch all the 1,000-odd videos about absolutely everything to do with all this kind of stuff, plus other stuff. You know, the old TR3. Did you know there's a TR3D now? You know the old TR3B? There's a TR3D, which is a military triangular anti-gravity craft. Sorry. Tristan has wrote, we, the RH negative, need to heal ourselves to help others before Jesus comes back. He's not going to come back. You know, in 1,000 years, if you were still alive, you would still say the same thing, wouldn't you? At what point is Jesus going to come back? Didn't come back in World War One and World War Two. Didn't come back when Genghis Khan was going around butchering people. At what point do you think he's going to come back? Well, when we're all healed, you'll all be dead. No one's going to know. You'll all be dead by then. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude. It's just, let's be honest, he's not coming back. Zuzu has wrote, it truly makes sense that aliens created us. Thank you. Good. Yeah. The Juices Loose was wrote reptilian. Again, would like to have a proper question instead of just reptilian, because I don't know what you know about them. Jenny's wrote, at least the Bible actually has scriptures, and whether it may not be true. What about you? Well, the scriptures are actually translations off of the older tablets, Jenny. They really are. Just watch any of my videos where I'm talking about the Anunnaki. But again, you don't even have to do that. I'll tell you what to do, Jenny. If you don't believe me, Jenny, go to my Patreon page. Don't worry, you don't have to pay. There's go to info on my Patreon page. So Patreon, this is for anyone that's trying to tell me that I'm wrong. You won't bother because it's if you'll realise you're wrong. And I don't mean to sound rude, but no one bothers. If you think you're right, you're not going to bother going checking to see whether you're wrong or not. But anyway, if for those of you that want to, but no one's going to bother, go to my Patreon page. That's patreon.com/outrohistory. Click on, you've got videos, you've got audios, live chats, whatever. Click on the one that says info, INFO. Scroll down and you'll see all the links to all the translations. Not by Zecharia Sitchin, by many people over 200 odd years. All the translations. Go there, have a little look around. After a few minutes, you're going to go, crap. I've just wasted all my life worshipping a freaking thing that man's changed, when really it was all these freaking Anunnakis that turned up. Because these are the first ever language written, fully fledged language, no half measures beforehand. Someone knew how to read and write back then in the first ever language, and they write about Anunnaki, aliens, Enki, Enlil, creating humans. Literally, I've read the tablets out that create the humans. You can go and read it. So either all the translation people are wrong, and you can even get computers now that will actually translate the tablets for you, or the Bible, bearing in mind it's a copy off of Aramaic, Babylonian and Sumerian, got it kind of wrong, and then the English version off of the Hebrew, which is also wrong. If you don't believe me, go back and read the Hebrew version now, with the better knowledge that you've got of anti-gravity, aeroplanes, planets, all this kind of stuff that we didn't really know when we translated the Bible back then. And you'll find anyway. Milo's wrote, I think Earth was found by higher forms of life, and like we created robots, they created us. That's fairly similar. Yeah, they're in our solar system, the Anunnaki, on a planet called Nibiru with an elliptical orbit of 3,600 years. Mamas wrote, no God made us. So you're saying that God made us as opposed to alien race. You do realise there's no, other than the Bible, if I said to you, forget the Bible, give me any evidence of God. Evidence. You'll say, but I've heard him in my dreams. I was with Demi Moore when I was younger in my dreams. Doesn't mean it actually happened. um, so without the Bible, you wouldn't even known about God. You wouldn't. You'd be going around doing your shopping, watching TV. You would not know about God if it wasn't for that Bible, which was a translation of the older tablets. And if you don't believe me that they're older tablets, just do your research, but you won't. So, again, when you say God made us, which version? Genesis 1:26, plural, gods in their image, or Genesis 1:27, where man changed it to be singular? Which one is it? You can't have both. You can't have both. That's what annoys me. People just want pick and choose whatever they want out of the Bible. And of course, the sons of God, the religious people, block your ears because you ain't going to like this. The sons of God that's in the Bible, which were the Ajiji, which also translates to watchers, by the way, if anyone's interested. The ones on Mars that came down and stole human women and bred with them, that ended up some of them being Nephilim, which were giants. The sons of God in the Bible, as well as obviously in the original tablets, they came down, but of course Bible people don't want to hear that. They stole human women. They bred with human women. They basically forced themselves on human women. So every time people write down Jesus is God, Jesus is this, Jesus is that, what about his brothers? The brothers that are on Mars, but let's pretend then they weren't Anunnaki or Ajiji, that was the name that was given. Let's pretend that they were sons of God or gods. So let's pretend. So now Jesus has got brothers because Jesus was the son of God. Oh no, Jesus is God. Blah, 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 blah. No. Don't just change it to suit what you want. The sons of God are Jesus' brothers. You can't say anything different to that because if you're going to believe the Bible, you've got to believe everything. Don't pick and choose, which really winds me up. I can't do that. When I'm reading these tablets out, whatever it says, I have to go by it because I'm not going to pick and choose and say, oh no, redheads were geniuses and blondes were bimbos, and I can't do all of that. I won't make up crap. Just can't do it. Sorry, Cherries wrote, stop spamming the chat. Don't be racist. If you don't like the subject, scroll on. Thank you, Cherry. But yeah, the brothers, they physically raped'd women. How's that make you feel? Any religious people? Answer that. I'll be interested to see your replies. Mia's wrote, wow, he is really confident to tell the lie. You know why I'm confident? Because compared to Bible people, and forgive me for saying this, but Bible people know there's contradictions in the Bible. You do. Anyone that's read the Bible knows there's contradictions. Whereas nothing that I've read out from the ancient tablets contradict anything else. There's 2 million tablets. Far more tablets than there are pages in your Bible. One of them's right. The first ever language that writes about the same stuff, the floods and everything else that just so happened to be in thousands of years later in the Bible. Which one's right? Revolution has wrote, yes, yes, it's why test in the first you read in testimony. Sorry, Revolutions wrote, yes, it's why test is the first you read in testimony. I'm not sure what the yes part was referring to. Sorry. Paul's wrote, the world was void when one of the Nibiru's moons smacked into Tiamat, making Earth as it is today. Yeah, there's a couple of trains of thought on the old thing there, Paul. I know you've been researching a hell of a lot recently, so well done. At least, there's people out there that do research, so well done for that. Yeah, Sitchin's version is that one of the moons became one of the moons of Nibiru became our moon called Kingu. I don't know. I kind of don't really agree with that. I think one of their moons smashed into, or 4 of their moons, which is what it says in the UN release in the British Museum, smashed into the planet called Tiamat, which was between Mars and Jupiter, which makes sense because there's a thing called Bode's Law anyway. Go look it up if you don't know what that means. But yeah. So anyway, cut a long story short, it's good that you're doing research. Josh has wrote humans evolved, bro. From you, okay, Josh. There is a thing called missing link. It's not me making that thing up. It's been around for a long time. In fact, when I went to the British Museum, Natural History Museum, when I was fucking 8 or something, this is a kid that had no, couldn't spell, couldn't really write, didn't talk till I was 4. Now you can't shut me up. And I went in there and I saw the evolution chart, the ones with ape to thingy, and I went, that ain't right. That ain't right. That's something missing there. And that was before I even knew about the missing link. So, Josh, it's not me saying, yes, humans evolve, and we're going to carry on evolving until we get wiped out by whatever. But there is a missing link. And that's a fact. Jeff Riders wrote, like birds poop out seeds to create new trees and forests, aliens pooped out humans, all the earth. Don't know how to answer that one. Rolandos wrote, the Holy Bible has reference about it. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Sorry, I don't know which part you're referring to. Conspiracy Realists wrote, Yahweh God was one of the Anunnaki, same time frame as Ashura. Yeah, I mean, all the Anunnakis, there's 12 main gods that was classed as gods, or lords, shall we say, in ancient Sumerian times. And of course, we ended up with 12 gods in Greece, and we ended up with the same 12 gods in Rome. And the rest were just classed as Anunnaki. But technically, they're all gods. When you read the text, they're all gods. But the Anunnaki is a group name, and Ijiji was also a group name that was given to the ones on Mars. T. Rip has wrote, do you believe there is an alien base in Antarctica? I mean, I heard the whistleblower years ago say, oh crap, it's 9:15. I heard the whistleblower say that there was an alien spaceship. Sorry, someone was just muted there and it scrolled all the way back to the bottom. So because of the time, I'll read out a few of the later ones in a sec. But yeah, whistleblower said there was a alien craft in Antarctica, under the ice, that was still powered, that was the size of a city. Since then, I've heard another whistleblower say that it's absolutely massive, but not city-sized, but more sort of town-sized. He didn't say the word town, but you get the impression that it wasn't as big as the first person said, probably because the first person may not have even traversed the whole length of it, maybe. But supposedly there was a craft in Antarctica. Obviously, there's not all ice on Antarctica as well. We know that for many different reasons. There's a big area that's just basically still got land there. It's not covered over in ice anymore. And that's why, the UFO in Antarctica is why the treaty more than likely was signed by many different countries. America pays these countries to keep quiet. They didn't. Brazil refused to be one of the countries to keep quiet about UFOs, but America started putting pressure on them. Eventually, they had to. Because if you go back and look from 80s backwards, you'll see UFOs all over the place in the Brazilian newspapers and everything. They really was trying to get it out there, but as time went on, they got suppressed by the military might of America, as usual. Do I believe there was a craft under there? The logic is hard for me because, yes, the Anunnaki were totally aware of Antarctica. They knew about the ice shelf going to break off. They knew that would cause a deluge. They wrote about it. Bible ended up copying it and calling it a flood. The original words was deluge. But whether or not the craft was there, see, the Anunnaki didn't have a craft that big. That's the thing that I've got, the problem I've got. So ice was there. So if this alien craft is there and it's as big as a city, then it was pre-Anunnaki. More than likely pre the ice Antarctica even being frozen over, because if the guy was telling the truth that the ship's underneath ice, that means I doubt if it sort of melted its way in and then got covered over, the chances are it probably landed there for whatever reason. and there's Earth's quite a new planet considering if you go by astronomers. So other planets could have had life passing Earth many a time before, just flying backwards and forwards, and may not have been able to live on Earth for whatever reason, oxygen or however they live. So could a ship crashed quite easily, I would imagine. So it's hard to say for sure. So I'm just going to scroll more to the bottom because I've got things that I was going to do at 9. Revolutionary Blisters wrote, so perhaps you have been handed a hardened heart and will end there. That's probably to do with me not believing in an almighty being, even though there's no proof of an almighty being whatsoever, but there is proof of the Anunnaki because they've got temples built for them and everything else. I wouldn't say it's a hardened heart, it's a logical heart. Beautiful Disasters wrote, I hate it when people pick and choose, it's so dumb. They're trying to make it for their own narrative. Oh, thank you. Yes, that's when I was talking about the Bible. They do, don't they? I don't know if you've noticed that. I've had discussions with Bible people and they quote one thing and I'm like, but what about? And then they don't want to know about the second part of it. Ardent Soldiers wrote, only begotten son means anything to you? It doesn't actually, sorry. I don't know if that's to do with the sons of God, because it is plural in the Bible. The sons of, I think the wording was, the sons of God, or I think it might even be gods, the sons of God took unto them the daughters of man, which is kind of weird because obviously man meaning humans and them. So if everyone was human, if the sons of God was also human, then they wouldn't have said took unto them the daughters of man. They would have just said they bred with their own kind. So clearly there's a distinction, difference there, even in the Bible. Conspiracy Realists wrote, when will Nibiru pass Earth again? So between, basically, Sitchin was sort of saying, forgive me if I get it wrong, but Sitchin was saying something like 600 to 900 years before it comes back round. Apparently it's speeding up. It seems about right. Sitchin said that, and the times between the Shahs, because after the flood, they then started using Earth years, which really helped. So you can tell that in the last 4 times that it came round since the flood, or 3 times, it got quicker slightly. So if you could roll that back thousands and thousands of years, then it probably is speeding up a little bit quicker each time for whatever reason. We're going to be dead before it passes back round. So whatever happens, we'll be dead. Vicky's wrote, seek the truth and you will find it. All answers are within. We were stolen. Male Rotten has wrote, the prophet ripped the woman. The prophet ripped the woman. I don't know what that's referring to, sorry. REBRs wrote, you're talking about the third that fell from heaven. Yes, correct. So, well done. So, as you may have hopefully heard me earlier, 300 out of the 900 Anunnaki that came here originally, 300 went, which is a third, went to the moon, Mars, as an away station, and they were then dubbed the name Ajiji, which translates into watching or watchers, which just happens to be the watchers that come down and stole human women, but of course no one wants to hear that in the Bible. Elementals wrote, penguins created the human race, prove me wrong. Okay, no problem at all, just watch any of my videos or go and do any research on, in fact, tell you what, even better than that, go to Oxford University website, Elemental. This is where I make you look stupid, sorry. Go to the Oxford University website, and your best bet is to look on. Well, in fact, just go to my Patreon page. I've got all the links there, and in there you can actually read many of the translations that they've got, and the bits where it talks about Enki asking his half sister for help to create humans. He's not a penguin. So, sorry to make you look stupid. So I've proved you wrong there, because you said prove it. I've just done it. Now prove that a penguin created humans. The other way back. You won't. One of us, I'm not going to mention the names, is slightly smarter than the other one, considering I left school with no freaking qualifications or anything. And I am thick. Sorry, it scrolled all the way to bottoms again, so I'm going to have to read wherever I was at. Revolver Stoltic has wrote, you have no idea what you're talking about. If I didn't have any ideas, sorry, this is where I make the people look stupid. I don't mean to do it. Yes, I do. If I had no idea, then it would be an incoherent babble. Would you not agree? And you could say, well, that's exactly what you're doing now. However, if I had no idea what I was talking about, I wouldn't be referring to certain objects and carvings and statues, etc. Because that means I would be knowing what I'm talking about, because I'd be pointing to something that's actually physically there. Not just in the British Museum, but they're in the Louvre and they're in the Morgan Library, etc. I can point to the Nineveh Library, I can point to all of them, but I can't point to them because that means I know what I'm talking about. In which case, I do know what I'm talking about. In which case, ergo, therefore, Revolver, I have just dropped the mic on you. Sorry about that. Lisa's wrote, the one thing I do have, Revolver, is intellect. I can't spell for crap. My directions are crap. I can't cook. There's a lot of things I can't do. But my intellect is the only thing that I've got. Lisa's wrote, God is not fiction, he is source. Well, the problem we've got with that is literally we have the tablets that say gods are the Anunnaki. So we have to go by that. We can't pick and choose, bearing in mind the Bible copied from that. So which one's a myth? Because if you're going to say the tablets that the Bible copied from a myth, then you have to say that what's in the Bible's a myth. Would you not agree? So we have to go with the original tablets. You can't not go with them and then choose the Bible that copied the tablet. You can't do that. Sorry, it scrolled to the bottom. A lot of scrolling to the bottom. I think there's a lot of religious people being blocked and muted by the looks of it. Sorry, don't hate me if you don't want to do the research and want to believe in God. Please do. But I won't go onto your God YouTube, TikTok channel and tell you about Anunnaki. I won't do that. Why? Because I'm not stupid. I'm not going to force my views on you. Like Warrior of Christ has just looking at the post here. Ayo, God created us. I wouldn't say that because I wouldn't go on to your posts and say Anunnaki created us. Even though I'm right, I wouldn't do that. So don't be upset and don't give me nasty things in capitals. Funny enough, Lucifer Falls wrote in capitals. So he believes what he reads about aliens, but not about God. What a joke. I do believe about the God. It's got gods, plural. Again, Lucifer. Numpty. Which version do you... I call you Numpty because you've gone for version... Pick a version. Genesis 1:26 or Genesis 1:27. You've gone for Genesis 1:27 because you wrote singular. God. So one of us, and where you're talking about a joke, one of us is made the other one look stupid because you've took the man-made version that changed it. Are you happy about that, Lucifer? Are you happy that you've gone... Now listen, I could knock some stuff up that you'll believe. Why? Because you believe the man-made version. The changed version. Sorry about this, people. This is what happens with religious people. They do get angry. Which is funny because I did do a video saying the other day that religious people don't get angry, but it looks like there's some angry people tonight that's realised that maybe I am talking sense and they don't want to hear it. Now, just for those religious people, I'll give you one little thing. The Anunnaki said there was a creator of everything. So, that's not what's in the Bible. The Bible relays the same stories as the Anunnaki. We've got the original tablets, so you can forget. But the Anunnaki said there's a creator of everything. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth said the universe was created by a thought. The Little Greys have said that the source or creation is... They don't call it a god, but that's what everything is, source or creation. So if that makes you feel better, that's what's supposedly out there. But it's not what's written in the Bible. The Bible just is a copy of older text. Saint John has wrote aliens are fallen angels. The Ajiji are fallen angels. Do me a favour, Saint. Go and look up the word Igigi. Look it up. Then go to any ancient translations or modern translations of ancient texts. Look up what they are, and then you'll find that the fallen angels, bearing in mind angels is not even freaking a real word. It's just it's a Hebrew word for the word messenger. It's hard work tonight, isn't it? Silos wrote, you got it completely wrong. No problem at all. If you could just show me where I've got it wrong. And I mean properly show me, don't just say I've got it wrong, because no one will be able to show me where I've got it wrong, because I'm referring to the tablets that are physically there. Whereas a Bible contradicts itself. None of the tablets contradict itself. Oh, it's so hard work for people to see. So indoctrinated. I don't mean it to sound bad, but I'm telling you, there's other tablets out there that predate the Bible that the Bible copied from, and you don't even have to believe me. You can ask your freaking vicar or priest or anyone with half a brain will tell you, yeah, the Bible did copy. I mean, even the Hebrew word Elohim is a translation of the word God. Where do you think the translation come from? Magic? No, it come from a tablet or papyrus or something prior to the word Elohim, which means straight away it's a translation. So I'm telling religious people there's translations out there that predate the Bible that the Bible copies from, and no, and people are still calling me a liar and I'm wrong. Wow. And then St. John has wrote, they did not create us, the Anunnaki. Even though we've got the tablets, even though we've got two fused chromosomes. Do you think God done that? Do you think he sat there and thought, you know what? And also, Bible people, do you think God created everything and then rested on the seventh day and didn't come back? Because the island of Hawaii that was formed about 200,000 years ago, had all new creatures and plants on it. So did God come back and say, you know what? I think that deserves some special creatures and some special plants all on its own? Or do you think that was evolution? Yeah, I rest my case. Paul has wrote, Adamu was the first species made for mining gold. That's correct. So for those of you that may have listened to me talking about Adapa, Adam and Eve were the ones that the Anunnaki wrote down and therefore ended up writing down the King's List, which is, I don't know, I'm boring you now, but basically because they were Enki's offspring, Adam and Eve, from humans that had already created, that's why they got written down. We do actually have the name for the very first two Homo sapiens that were created in the Absu in South Africa. We do actually have a name for them. Don't ask me, I can't remember the names, but there is a name that they gave for the very first two. The one that was red skin and the lighter skinned female. They gave names to them, but they called them the Adamu, which is exactly what Paul was saying. So there's a difference between Adam and Adamu, but of course religious people will just read whatever they want to read and take it the way they want to take it. XRP has wrote, could Jesus have been a form of God reincarnated? No, if you go back by the original translations, proper translations now, modern translations, not of the actual Hebrew text as opposed to the English version that was translated years ago of the Hebrew text, it reads that Mary was abducted by a beam of light taken. It's a classic alien abduction if you read it now, but back then when they was translating it, they didn't know that a beam of light could levitate people up into a spaceship and all this kind of stuff. So if you go back and read it now, because religious people would dare not reread it now, because what happens if it actually reads like a freaking alien abduction? My God, there'll be hell to pay. Our true history will be right, and everyone will be like, oh my God, what do I do now? Just enjoy life. That's what I say. But no one's going to bother go back and read it's there. You can go read it. You can, if you know how to read Hebrew, you can go read it. And it's totally different from what you imagine it to be. AK18 has wrote, have you heard of TLS, the Light System, a clandestine organisation with intergalactic connections? If I have, it doesn't ring a bell right now. So no, sorry, not off the top of my head anyway. No, thank you. I'll try and keep a lookout for that. Sounds interesting. Sorry, you got me on that one. 010010110. Sounds like a binary from Next Gen. I kind of like to think we're pets who managed to escape. Um, we were slaves. I know Enki said that we're not allowed, or Enlil said we're not allowed to create slaves, or they're not allowed to create slaves. But when you read the tablets, they had slavery back then. People were slaves. Now you could argue, well, hang on a minute, maybe they were slaves in terms of a prisoner. Now that may be different. Thinking about it, so we look at slaves as, hey, you're going to do my work because I'm smarter than you, or I've got more money, or whatever. But maybe back then, a criminal justice system would involve them actually forcing the person to do the work. So maybe the name slave was actually given to a criminal doing, their time. Maybe. That's the thing. That's why I like looking at things from a different angle, because it's too easy to say, oh, slaves, therefore. But maybe those slaves had done something bad, murdered someone, and now they're classed as a slave. Maybe. Doesn't say that, but there's a hell of a lot of slaves back then. We've got writings of them and things. Beautiful Disasters wrote, what do you think of reincarnation? So yes, the orb that joins with us it's not ours, it's not our spirit, it's an orb that joins with us, and then we connect with it in the pineal gland. It leaves our body. When we die, we're in control of it until it crosses over, and then once it crosses over to the next plane of existence again, then we are just a memory in its long line of other people that it had been with, and it will go back round. And yes, Virginia University did a study of 2,400 reincarnation cases of young children, and out of that 1,200 they cannot debunk in any shape or form. In other words, the child knew nicknames of people he used to work with, may have had a birthmark, like for example a gunshot through one side of the temple and a birthmark on the other side where the bullet exited from the previous life. Ears missing, fingers missing from a previous life where they'd lost their fingers and stuff like that. And the list just goes on and on. In fact, if you're interested in spirits and whatever happens, I've got a 4-hour video that I've made myself using my own research on my Patreon page. I know it's on my Patreon, but sorry, it is 4 hours and it's edited and it's voiceovers and everything. So it's not just me waffling on, it's actually written properly. Anyway, so it's 4 hours long. It's called Everything You Need to Know About Spirits, right from the beginning to the very end of a spirit's life, in terms of what happens to it and whether or not it can be destroyed with, well, I mentioned that, but whether or not it can, that's what the whistleblower had said. But yeah, so everything in between, from near-death experiences to reincarnation, to even why people end up with, when they have a near-death experience, and they end up with abilities that they didn't have before, such as playing a piano, a different language, etc. It's all explained in that 4-hour video. Bless you lot if you want to watch it. It's on my Patreon page, patreon.com/OurTrueHistory. Johnny Holmes wrote 2028, it's all over. If they get their way, more than likely. Paul has wrote, yes, they did. Genesis gets its stories from the Sumerian cuneiform tablets. So Paul has been doing his homework. I know he has, because he's been asking me questions, he's been watching videos, he's been sending me links to videos. I know Paul's been doing his homework. So all it took was Paul to start researching, and now he's agreeing with me. Not because he likes me or anything, it's because he's come to the same conclusions. But like I say, religious people probably won't bother doing that, but Okay, again, it's scrolled to the bottom. I will have to be quick. Susie's wrote, I think there is an alien presence here to clean up the AI demi-jurors. I can't. This is why I sound thick. I can't pronounce crap. Sorry. I don't know what demi... Yeah, sorry. Melanie Jackson's wrote, fallen angels slept with humans. They did, the Ajiji, which were the Anunnaki's children. If you don't believe me, just go and look up the word Ajiji. And then just do a little bit of research. Tiny little bit of research is all you need into it. Look at some of the old translations that's been done for Ajiji, and then you'll say, crap, he's right. Sean has wrote, maybe they are evil AI in the game trying to deceive the real God who constantly terminates them. I hear what you're saying, Sean, but it's probably easier just to go with the actual tablets and the carvings and the 2 million tablets, the temples that they built, the buildings like pyramids that we still can't recreate today. It's probably easier to go along with that and the fact that they say that they created us to help mine for gold for their atmosphere, and the fact that there is gold mines over in South Africa that are ancient. Probably easier to go with that than making up other stuff to do with AI and that. I'm not knocking you, I'm just saying it's literally we've got the narrative from A to B, and there's no need to put other things in between when we've got it. Jack's wrote, Adam's rib was used to make human. The rib has the best bone marrow DNA sequences to start cloning. I'm guessing you believe the Bible on that instead of you researching where the Bible got that from, because if you actually research, you'll find it was Ninurta taking no, not Ninurta, Ningzida taking the bone marrow, and it wasn't from a human. But I'm not going to convince you unless you go and read the translations by many different people. But hey, it's up to you. I'm still shocked at how many people can just believe a Bible that's changed by people and not do the homework. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude. It's just I can't do that. I'm not that type of person. Sorry, it keeps scrolling to the bottom. So, 3 drops has wrote, where did the orbs come from? Apparently, according to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which is the oldest that I can find of any mention to do with universes and anything like that, and orbs, is that they formed at the same time as the universe. That's what it says. So take that as you will. King of the Earth has wrote, but just because a person did it, the fact life itself as a whole is a thing is still. I probably missed something on that. Sorry, I'm just trying to scroll back to see what that was referring to. Someone, I just scrolled up a little bit. Someone wrote, is ChatGPT alien technology? Do you know, I often think that RH ancestor. Do you know, I really do, because I use ChatGPT quite a lot now. There's some things it's got wrong, but I kind of wonder how they can do that, but I don't know the answer to that question. I know that the little Orion Greys are half android, so are they using some sort of, as the military trickled through like they did with lasers and like they did with fibre optics after the Roswell crash, have they trickled through artificial intelligence to help the elites get what they want without the amount of manpower they need to, everything's going to be cashless, and doors and stuff in the future, 300 odd years in time, will be run by AI. You won't be able to buy something without the AI saying, hang on a minute, you had a hamburger last week, why are you eating this? And you have to explain it to an AI. So the elites from that point of view will have full control by having AI. So could it have been leaked technology? More than likely, possibly, yeah. Paul has wrote they were the younger Anunnaki to do with the Ajiji. They were indeed, which is why the Bible calls them the sons of God, which was God being the Anunnaki, or gods. So yeah, spot on. See, I like people that does their homework, and it all makes sense, doesn't it, Paul? When you start actually doing your homework on this stuff, it really does make sense. It's just like slots into place. Instead of imagining sort of an almighty being out there that got so tired after 6 days, bless him, and he couldn't bother shaving. You know, all the pictures of God has the same beard as the Anunnaki and Poseidon and Neptune, which is kind of weird considering they are actually all the same person. John has wrote Sumerian tablets and Enoch are derivatives. Derivatives of each other or derivatives of something else. Oh crap! It scrolled to the bottom. Keep scrolling to the bottom. Beast has wrote, what do you use for ChatGPT for? Sometimes I asked, well, I do actually quite a lot of things, but I asked for Sumerian type stuff. I say to it, like this morning again, I was researching, and I say, you know, who were the Anunnaki, who were the offspring off of King Anu that was left here on Earth, and it gave me answers that was incorrect, and it seems to have got that off of other people that seems to be incorrect, because I've looked at, you know, there's, when you look at the family tree of the Anunnaki, you'll come across many different people putting different names down and things like that. In fact, one particular person said that in a family tree that Ninharsag was the daughter of Enki. No. So I've even read a tablet out where he calls her sister. So, but ChatGPT didn't put down Nimna or Ninharsag, which is the same person. So it's not infallible. So don't rely on it. You know, always listen to Our True History, who does his double checking. Winnie's wrote, all I get on ChatGPT is sorry, that's classified. Winnie, what are you bloody searching for? Oh, you sods. What are you up to? You're going to get a knock at the door soon with Men in Black. Right, I'm probably going to have to shoot, so I'll take 2 more questions, then I'm going to have to shoot. But it's been a lovely evening with you guys. Shauna's wrote, you mean, thank you, Winnie. You mean the plot line to the RAL-based game? I don't know what that is, but if it's to do with an alien race creating humans, then you'll find that the game probably took the off of the true story. John Cakes has wrote, how far have we come in 100 years? Of course, there's Anunnaki helping. Well, a lot of it's to do with certainly since 1947, the Roswell crash, when we got fibre optics and so many more things that some people say we even learnt the transistor back then from the crash ship, but I don't know that for sure, which has obviously hugely impacted the size of our tech. R4 Cash has wrote, my guy, the future is now, you are just not aware of it. Oh crap, sorry, I've just missed it. Let me read that again to try and catch it. My guy, the future is now. You are... I've missed it again. Sorry. Yeah, my sense of humour is crap. REBRs wrote, what does the ancient civilizations worship were the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim? What does ancient civilizations worship were... I'm guessing they... disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. Nephilim were the giants. No one worshipped the giants. They hated the giants. Not at the beginning they didn't, but when they started eating them out of house and home, and I've read the tablets where literally they say they eat everything, including people. So no one would be worshipping them. The one has wrote, you haven't met an alien in your life? Possibly. Long story. Won't bother going into it now. I've said the story before about me being in a hotel on my own. It was a business thing, and I won't bore you, but something happened, and it looked like to me I was paralysed. First time, only time ever in my life I couldn't move, and there looked like a little figure about 3 to 4 foot standing right beside my bed, and another one at the back of the thing. And as soon as they walked out, my arm sprung up, and I was trying to move it, but I couldn't. So it's literally as soon as they walked round where the toilet was, my arm sprang up involuntarily because obviously I couldn't move, but I must have been trying to move my arm. But as soon as they moved, my arm sprang up. I sat up. I looked at my phone because, long story short, someone had texted me 2 minutes before, and 2 minutes had passed. And that could actually technically have been 1 minute because it was 12 o'clock that the text came through, midnight. And when I looked at the clock, the phone, as soon as they'd left, it was 2 minutes past. So that gave me 2 minutes to get into an REM sleep, get into a state where my mind was saying to me, please, in fear, please leave me alone, please leave me alone, please leave me alone. I said it 3 times, and I remember hearing myself say it. And I remember hearing myself say, why am I saying that? And that's when I opened my eyes and saw what I thought was something standing beside my bed. I could be just hallucinating and whatever I could be. It's possible, but it seemed pretty real to me. Familiar... Versatiles, right? Are you familiar with the Book of Enoch and how does it relate to what you've been talking about? I am familiar. In fact, on my Patreon page, I've done a breakdown of the Book of Enoch for people. So, people bring in the Book of Enoch. There's far more better texts out there to read than the Book of Enoch. I mean, that would probably be on my way down on my list for people to read if they're trying to get into this. It's very confusing, and he dreams a lot, and he talks about stuff that there's no relevance really in terms of the things that I talk about. He waffles on a bit. So yeah, there's plenty more proper texts out there that I would read first. Toya's wrote, so do you think that we call God is an alien? Yes, I think that's their race name. I know it sounds stupid, but they've got to have a race name, and when you read all the ancient texts, it says God. Or gods. Right, last one. Thank you, Sherry, for saying you're muting someone. Tiger Stripes has wrote Planet X. Yeah, that would be what would be originally called Nibiru. J9 has wrote, there's so much evidence under our oceans and seas yet to be discovered. There is. And then X1A has wrote, it's all in your mind. I'm guessing you're saying that all I've been talking about, the tablets, the carvings and everything's all in my mind, and that all the British Museum's whole Sumerian collection is not really there. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, you know the I think they've got how many? I can't remember exactly how many they've got in the British Museum. I think it's 300,000 of these tablets. But obviously, if you're saying it's all in my mind, then it's all in my mind. Right, I'm probably going to have to shoot now, guys. I've got to sort my boy out and stuff. So thank you, everybody. Sorry if I didn't get to your messages. I'll probably do another live tomorrow night, about 7ish, if anyone's interested. James, thank you for an enjoyable live. Must be a full moon, lots of numpties in tonight. Oh, bless you, Jane. Yeah. Don't let them hear you say that. So yes, thank you guys. Sorry I have to shoot, but I've been doing this for a few hours. But do watch my videos on my Patreon page. So many ones that I don't talk about here, like the glass balls on the moon, which you may not know about. And I also talk about the fact that the Anunnaki called the planets alive, and then I actually go with scientific evidence now that people are actually saying the planet's alive. And then there's a 4-hour documentary on everything you need to know about spirits on my patreon.com/Outer History. There's also a documentary that I've made again myself on mermaids. Trust me, if you listen to me, you know that I won't say it if it's not there. And I break it right down to where I follow the evidence that no one else has done, obviously, because that's me, how I do it. But yeah, plenty on my Patreon page. But even if you don't want to, you can just go to YouTube or watch all my videos on my TikTok, which is a hell of a long time to scroll all the way to the bottom. There's over 1,000, but they are on my YouTube page and my website, outerhistory.co.uk. outerhistory.co.uk, and you can watch all the videos in sets of 5 or 50. So if you want to binge watch, and trust me, I've had people saying that they binge watched 800 to 900 videos, which is roughly a minute each. That's a long time. They've stayed up all night watching it. So feel free to. Sorry, I keep waffling, don't I? But thank you, everybody. I'm going to have to shoot. There's things I should have been doing, and I'm going to get told off. So thank you, everybody. Take care, and have a nice day or evening wherever you are. And I'll watch me for another live. Follow me, and then you'll get notified, I hope. All right. Sorry if I've missed all your questions. It wasn't intentional. Thank you, guys. Take care. Thank you for the hearts, Senzu. And thank you for everyone that did any hearts or whatever. I forget to say that, but thank you. Take care, guys. Bye.